Your jaw tightens before you even notice it. Shoulders creep toward your ears, the way fog slides up a hillside. The phone lights up. A message. Another. Your chest feels 2 sizes too small for your breath, and your thoughts start running like unsecured carts on a downhill track. You replay what you said, what they said, what might happen next. You promise yourself you'll stay calm next time, and then the next time looks a lot like the last. Sound familiar? Here's the difference you'll claim starting now. You'll learn to read your inner weather before it becomes a storm, and you'll learn the simple moves that change the forecast in the next 60 seconds. You won't erase feelings. You'll steer them. You won't force your mind quiet. You'll give it better jobs. You'll move from reacting to choosing with tools you can apply in an elevator, in a meeting, in bed at 2 a.m., and in the doorway before a hard conversation. And you will remember this. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. Feel the air in the room for a moment. Notice the temperature on your cheeks, the fabric on your shoulders, the weight of your tongue. When you place attention in the body, your amygdala has less room to hijack the controls. Blood flow returns to the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that plans, organizes, and reframes. That's not a lecture, it's an instruction. Take a 4-4-6 breath right now. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale long and slow through pursed lips for 6. Again. One more. Each long exhale tilts your nervous system toward parasympathetic calm, like dimming a light instead of flicking it. Small levers, big signals. You're going to use your first named framework, the inner barometer. A barometer doesn't make weather. It reads pressure so a sailor can trim the sails before the squall. Your inner barometer has 3 dials: sensation, story, and signal. Sensation is what your body is doing: heat in the face, tightness in the throat, buzzing in the hands. Story is the sentence your mind is broadcasting: they don't respect me, or this will go badly. Signal is the action your nervous system is priming: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. When you read all 3 dials, you interrupt the automatic pilot. The reading itself begins the reset. It's the difference between standing in rain yelling at the sky and quietly putting on a coat. Here's the protocol. When you feel the pressure rise, say quietly, barometer check. Do it out loud if you can. Name one sensation in the present tense: I feel heat in my chest. Name one story as a thought, not a fact: I'm having the thought that I'll mess this up. Name the signal: my body is preparing to rush. Then you make a 1-degree adjustment, 1 breath pattern, 1 sentence shift, 1 micro move. Your brain loves 1-degree shifts. They don't trip the alarm of resistance. That micro move is your path to steering the storm. In a fluorescent conference room, Maya once felt her ears go hot while a client questioned her timeline. She'd slept 4 hours, the AC was too cold, and the projector fan made a mosquito whine. Her old pattern was to speak faster and over-explain. That day she felt the heat and said under her breath, barometer check. Sensation, hot ears, tight jaw, story: I'm having the thought that they think I'm incompetent. Signal, urge to rush and defend. She pressed her feet into the carpet, took 2 4-4-6 breaths, and used a second framework you'll learn now, the window widen. It's 4 moves: pause, name, widen options, pick the smallest wise action. After naming, she widened. I could defend, delay, or ask 1 clarifying question. Then she took the smallest wise action. What's the 1 milestone that would make you feel confident about the next 2 weeks? The room softened. The client answered. The weather changed. Pause for a sensory beat. Let your shoulders drop by 1 centimeter. Feel the cool or warmth of the air at the tip of your nose. Let your exhale be slightly longer than your inhale. You are teaching your nervous system that attention is a safe home you can return to. The inner barometer works because your nervous system is a prediction machine. The reticular activating system, your brain's filter at the base of the skull, decides what data deserves front row tickets. When you say, "I'm having the thought that," you tag a sentence as a mental event rather than a meteorological fact. The RAS learns to prioritize signals from the body and from the present environment over recycled stories from the past. That shift is not theoretical, it's the practical doorway to choice. Here's your first micro-practice, the 90-second weather rule. When a strong emotion hits, you give it a 90-second watch without feeding it new fuel. Sit or stand where you are, set a mental clock. For 90 seconds, you observe the emotion as changing weather, tingles, temperature, pressure, impulses, no commentary, no analysis. If a thought shows up, prefix it with, "I'm noticing a thought that," and let it drift like a leaf. This is not suppression, it is containment with compassion. Floods recede when you stop pouring buckets into the river. After 90 seconds, you ask, "What is the smallest wise action now?" If your answer is to breathe again, breathe. If your answer is to send one sentence, send it. If your answer is to wait 10 minutes, wait. You are not the storm, you are the sky that holds it. Once more, notice your hands. Are they cool or warm? Notice your tongue resting on the floor of your mouth. Let your jaw unclench as if you were setting down a heavy bag beside your foot. The bag can be picked up again later. For now, set it down. Let's put the frameworks together in a doorway drill you can use anytime you cross a threshold. Bedroom to hallway, car to sidewalk, office door to meeting room. As you touch the doorknob or pass the frame, whisper, "New sky." Do a barometer check. One sensation, one thought as thought, one signal. Use the window widen, pause, name, widen options, choose the smallest wise action. If you have 10 seconds, add 1-4-4-6 breath. You will take 5 steps into the next space, already in choice rather than in chase. A word about why this matters. When the amygdala tags something as threat, it pulls energy from the prefrontal cortex like a blackout in a city block. You feel it as urgency, certainty, and a narrow tunnel of options. The barometer and the window widen steal back a little power. Breathing adjusts carbon dioxide and vagal tone. Naming shifts activity from limbic to language centers. You don't need to memorize brain maps to benefit. Just remember the feeling of lights coming back on. Consider another scene. You're at your kitchen counter late, blue light pellet shooting from your laptop. A colleague's comment on a shared doc reads sharper than it probably is. Your shoulders rise, your breath turns shallow and high in your chest. You want to fire off a paragraph that proves you're right. Inner weather, thunderheads forming, barometer check. Sensation, a hollow under your ribs. Story, I'm having the thought that they're undermining me. Signal, fingers itching to type fast. Window widen. You could reply now, draft and delay, or ask a question tomorrow. Smallest wise action, type a single line into a note, ask, which part concerns you most? Close the doc, stand up, walk to the sink, run water over your wrists. Cold receptors on your skin will calm you faster than a speech about professionalism. Weather shifts, sleep returns. Let your breath fall into a 4-4-6 cycle again. Imagine your lungs as bellows you don't have to force. On the exhale, imagine the air leaving as warm mist on a winter morning. The image itself signals safety. You are building an inner sanctuary, not a battlefield. There's a third tool to tuck in your pocket, the 2-question reframe. When your mind narrows to disaster, ask, what else might be true, and what's within my control for the next 10 minutes? The first question interrupts the negativity bias, the brain's ancient habit of scanning for snakes. The second gives your planning brain a job sized for success. In interviews, in arguments, in moments where shame tries to throw a hood over your head, These two questions reopen the window. Imagine being in line for coffee. Someone cuts ahead. Heat surges. Your throat tightens. Barometer check. Window widen. Two-question reframe. What else might be true? Maybe they didn't see you. Maybe they're exhausted. Maybe they're just rude, but you don't have to rent them your mental apartment. What's within my control for the next 10 minutes? Your breath, your posture, the words you choose. You say calm and clear, "Excuse me, I think the line starts back there." You deliver a boundary without delivering a bomb. You leave with your coffee and your dignity. As you listen, your mind may try to bargain. Fine, I'll do this when it's really bad. Here's the paradox. Your best results come when you practice in mild weather. Build your skill on drizzles and overcast afternoons so you can rely on it during hurricanes. For the next 3 days, schedule 3 tiny rehearsals daily. Morning, doorway drill as you enter your work or study space. Afternoon, 90-second, weather rule when an inconvenience lands. Evening, 2-question reframe before you reply to any message that pokes you. Don't wait for inspiration. Treat it like brushing your teeth. Small, unsexy, essential. Another sensory beat. Feel the contact of your feet with the floor. If you're seated, feel the pressure of the chair on your thighs, the slope of your spine, the weight of your head balanced like a small bowl. Let your eyes soften in their sockets. Let the space behind your eyes feel wide, like the horizon has stepped closer. You might wonder, but what if the storm is justified? What if the problem is real? Your weather tools are not about pretending the sky is blue. They are about staying resourced when clouds gather, so you act with precision. You can push back. You can say no. You can leave. You can confront. Doing it with a regulated system makes your action cleaner and more effective. This is not about being nice. This is about being free. Identity is built of moments you repeat. Each time you notice sensation, label a thought as a thought, widen options, and choose a smallest wise action. You're casting a vote for a new kind of person. The vote is tiny. The tally accumulates. One day you walk into a room and feel the old trigger and you smile, not because you're above it, but because you recognize yourself steering. The line you speak to yourself becomes simple and strong. You are the awareness, not the emotion. If you want a tactile anchor, choose an object to carry this week. A coin, a smooth stone, a ring you already wear. Each time you touch it, let it cue the barometer. Over time, the object becomes a neural shortcut, a physical hyperlink to presence. Your RAS will learn, when the skin feels this texture, look inward before outward. That is how you reprogram your operating system without drama. Before we close this first chapter, practice once more. Think of a small thing that annoys you, the way a colleague chews, a recurring app notification, a squeaky hinge. Bring it to mind lightly. Barometer check. Name one sensation. Name one thought as a thought. Name one signal. Breathe 446. Window widen. Ask the 2 questions. Choose the smallest wise action. If nothing needs doing, let the weather pass. Silence can be an action, so can stillness, so can a glass of water. Feel the coolness of the air at the back of your throat. Listen for the quietest sound in the room, a distant fan, a bird, your own breath. Let your exhale soften your shoulders, and carry this forward. Your inner weather is not the enemy, it is information. You don't tame a storm by yelling at it. You steer by looking up, reading the dials, and adjusting your sails 1 degree at a time. This is not about perfection, it's about direction, and you are already facing the right way. You are the sky, the weather moves through you. When it passes, you remain. The second kind of storm isn't loud. It creeps in sideways as a pattern so familiar you barely notice it. A ping from the person who always asks for one more quick thing. A certain tone in a partner's voice. A particular meeting room with a window that looks onto a wall. The forecast is déjà vu disguised as reality. Before you can think, your body leans into a script. You get small or sharp, or you disappear. Today you'll draw the map of those weather fronts and give yourself a shelter you can carry anywhere. Not a fortress that shuts the world out, but a sanctuary room inside you where the decisions get made. In that room, the storm knocks, and you, steady, decide whether and how to open the door. Start with a framework called the trigger map. Imagine a city map where certain intersections always jam at rush hour. Your map has 3 neighborhoods: people, places, patterns. People are the names or roles that spike your heart rate. Places are physical or digital rooms, the kitchen after 9 p.m., the Slack channel where conflicts never end. Patterns are sequences: late email right arrow, rush right arrow, regret, or silence guessing right arrow, spiraling. You don't need to write an essay. You just sketch the streets you travel most. When you see a street sign coming up, you can slow before the corner and avoid skidding into the same old guardrail. You are not building paranoia, you are building foresight. Take a sensory pause. Feel the air moving in at your nostrils, cooler than the air that leaves. Notice the shape of your spine. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back as if they were warm butter melting a little closer to your ribs. 1 slow 4-4-6 breath. Inhale, hold, long exhale. The storm hears you preparing and considers a different route. Pair your map with a simple protocol you will use a dozen times this week: the STOP reset. Stop is exactly that: 1 second of stillness, a micro-freeze on purpose. Tell your body stop in a tone you use with a friend about to step into traffic. Then tell, the T is for tell the truth. Name 1 sensation and 1 thought as a thought. I feel heat in my cheeks. I'm having the thought that I'm being cornered. Observe is your short watch, like the 90-second weather rule in miniature. You notice urges and let them crest and pass without boarding them. Proceed is the smallest wise action, sized for the next 60 seconds. The power of STOP isn't in drama, it is in repetition. Each cycle writes a new groove in your nervous system, a path to the sanctuary room with the good lighting and the sturdy chair. A story. On a humid Thursday, Leon rode the elevator to the 21st floor with a folder against his chest. The numbers blinked up, then paused at 17 as more riders shoved in. Someone's coffee breathed sugar into the cramped air. At 21, the doors opened, and there was his manager in the hallway, eyebrows up, the tone that always hooked him. Got a minute? Quick-fire drill. Leon's script was older than this job. Say yes, sprint, burn, resent. He felt the script wake like a reflex. STOP, he stopped on the threshold, told the truth under his breath. I feel a pulse in my temples. I'm having the thought that my no will cost me. Observed the urge to nod fast, the old tug in his throat. Proceed. He stepped into his sanctuary room before his mouth moved. He pictured the room clearly: a wooden table, the smell of cedar, a window. I can give you 10 minutes now, he said, and an hour at 3, which helps more. The manager blinked, recalibrated, said, 3 is better anyway. The weather that used to own him noticed it no longer could. Place 1 hand lightly over your heart and the other on your belly. Feel which moves first. Let the lower hand lead for the next 2 breaths, a small cue that says to your vagus nerve, we're safe enough to breathe from the base. Hear the softest sound in the room. The smaller the sound you can detect, the wider your attention is. The sanctuary room is not an escape. It's a control tower. Build it with 3 details so vivid your brain can summon it in a blink: a scent, a surface, and a view. Maybe the scent is rain on hot pavement or orange peel. Maybe the surface is a heavy mug, the kind that insists you slow down. Maybe the view is a horizon line you first saw on a road trip, a long sleeve of sky over a line of black pines. When you enter, you sit in a chair with your feet flat, knees uncrossed, hands on that surface. The room has rules, gentle, firm rules. No catastrophizing allowed inside, only questions that widen the window. No self-insults, they wait outside like shoes by the door. You do not bargain with storms from that chair. You read the instruments and choose your heading. Here's a micro practice to make the sanctuary real, the doorframe touch. Any time you pass a door, brush the frame with your fingertips and silently say, "Sanctuary." Your reticular activating system learns the pattern, finger sensation, in a room. After a week, the cue becomes automatic. In a hallway, at your apartment, entering a rideshare, hand to frame, mind to room. You'll feel the difference between acting from the storm and acting from the seat beneath the storm's sky. Now fold in a second framework, signal to story swap. In hot weather, your mind spins stories faster than you can fact-check them. The swap is simple. For the next minute, whenever your brain wants to chase a story, you redirect attention to a signal from the body or environment. Air over skin, weight in shoes, the cool circle of a ring on your finger. Your brain loves jobs. Give it one job at a time. Each signal you choose is a line thrown across a chasm to something stable. As you gather 3 or 4 signals, the narrative engine downshifts, and your wise options reappear like islands after fog. You can test this right now with a small anxiety. Bring to mind a task you've delayed. The storm tries to wrap words around it. If I don't do it, everything will slide. Instead of arguing, swap to signals. Feel the texture of your tongue. Feel the micro sway of your body even when you think you're still. Feel one spot of warmth where your clothes touch your skin. Notice a color in the room that you hadn't really seen. See how the urgency's edge softens. That softening isn't laziness. It's blood returning to the part of you that chooses wisely. Another scene. Leela had a pattern with her sister, a text thread that soured by message 4. The pattern was clockwork, sarcasm, defense, silence, flood of shoulds. One evening, Leela sat on her stoop, concrete still warm from the day. Her phone buzzed. A familiar opener. She felt the tug. Trigger map in her head lit up. People's sister, pattern, text escalation. Stop, she breathed once through the nose and felt the evening air as if tasting an apricot. In her sanctuary room, she looked out the window and asked the room's favorite question: what would the smallest wise action look like if I respected both of us? She typed one line: can we switch to voice for 5 minutes? Text makes it edgy for me. The storm tried to knock. She didn't bolt the door. She opened it carefully and spoke from the chair. The call was not perfect, but they stepped out of the hail. Return to your body. Soften the skin between your eyebrows. Unclench your toes, even if you didn't know they were clenched. Let your next exhale be so quiet you can barely hear it. There is no prize for breathing loudly. Quiet is a language your nervous system trusts. There is science beneath the poetry. Prediction error, the gap between what your brain expects and what happens, creates a narrow window where plasticity is high. When you interrupt a script with stop or swap a story for signals, you create that gap on purpose. You're telling your brain, update the model. Each tiny update reduces the next hijack's power. You do not need to use the word prediction error to benefit. You need to mark the moments you chose differently and let yourself feel the relief for 3 seconds longer than you want to. That feeling is the wet cement of new wiring. A drill for the next 24 hours, the 3 thresholds. Morning, pick the moment you enter your work or study zone. Midday, pick a meal. Evening, pick the return to your home base. At each threshold, touch the frame, say sanctuary, Run stop and choose a smallest wise action that takes less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes is key. You prime your identity by closing the gap between intention and action. Send the single clarifying email. Fill your water bottle. Write one sentence of the hard thing. Put your running shoes by the door. With each 2-minute win, your internal weather service revises its forecast from prone to chaos to capable of steering. If resistance shows up, this is ridiculous, I don't need a pretend room, notice the thought as a thought. Then ask your sanctuary chair a question it loves. What if this is not about the room, but about where I am sitting inside myself when I choose? The chair smiles. You know the answer. A memory can help. Think of a time you handled something beautifully, even if it looked small from the outside. The day you stayed quiet for 6 beats and asked the exact right question. The morning you turned off your phone for an hour and finished the thing. Replay the sensory data of that moment, the smell in the air, the light on the floor, the weight of your body in the chair. Bring that memory into your sanctuary room as a framed photo. When the storm says you can't, the photo says you already did. Let your jaw float, as if it was suspended by a thread from the crown of your head. Slide your tongue away from the teeth. Feel the back of your neck lengthen. Place one palm against the other and press lightly, just enough to feel a boundary that doesn't fight back. Boundaries can be that gentle. Sometimes the weather is grief, not anger, a low pressure that invites numbness. The tools still belong to you. STOP doesn't argue with pain. It offers you a chair to feel it without drowning. The signal-to-story swap saves you from building elaborate fictions to outrun a feeling that wants presence more than it wants explanation. When tears come, the sanctuary room is where you let them. When they pass, you open the window and air moves again. You might worry that all this will make you slower in a world that demands speed. In practice, the opposite happens. Speed without steering is wheels spin. The half-second you spend in stop, the breath you spend in observe, the 2-minute actions you stack, these give you traction. You become the person who replies with clarity instead of heat, who says yes at the right size, who can say no without turning it into a show. The world recognizes this. It trusts it. Identity gathers. You touch a doorframe and your system recalls. We sit to choose. You hear the old tone and your tongue forms new words. You map the triggers not to tiptoe around life, but to navigate it with the kind of firmness that is kind. You start to notice the moment where the sky inside you stays blue even while the storm passes overhead. The sentence you say under your breath gets simpler. You are the awareness, not the emotion. As you finish this chapter, rehearse with me. Picture a future moment today that tends to sweep you. See the hallway or the chat window. Feel the familiar swell in your chest, the elevator in your stomach. STOP say stop gently. Tell one truth about sensation. Tell one thought as a thought. Observe the impulse for a few breaths. Proceed with the smallest wise action that keeps you in the chair. Touch the nearest doorframe or tabletop and whisper, "Sanctuary." Swap a story for a signal. Feel the texture of the world, then move. The storm will not love this. It prefers you reactive. That's fine. Storms don't get a vote, you do. And with each vote, the forecast changes, quietly, reliably, like dawn learning its way through blinds. The mind has a favorite trick. It makes weather look like truth. A sigh at the end of a sentence becomes, "They're disappointed in me." A delay becomes, "I'm being replaced." The storm spreads a dye through the water and tells you the whole ocean is red. Today you will separate color from water. You will learn the move that takes a mood and turns it back into information you can work with. You will step onto rungs you can climb when the ground feels like it's tilting. You don't need a ladder that reaches the clouds. You only need the next rung under your hands. Start with a framework called the Emotional Alchemy Ladder. Alchemy is the art of changing one thing into another by following precise steps. Your ladder has 4 rungs: notice, name, normalize, navigate. Notice is simple and radical. Something is here. Name is precise and humble. This is sadness, or this is shame, or this is the electric itch of anger. Normalize is the sentence that returns you to the human world. Of course, part of me feels this, given what just happened. Navigate is the smallest wise action sized for the next 10 minutes. You don't drag yourself to the top. You climb one rung, then the next. Each rung changes your relationship to the storm. Your body receives a script that says, "I see you, you are allowed, I will move us." Pause and feel your breath landing in your chest like a wave that arrives without hurry. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Sense the weight of your clothes. Notice a patch of skin, wrist, neck, cheek, where air touches. This is the notice rung. Your nervous system registers that someone competent is home. Here's the science smuggled into the move. Naming an emotion moves activity from limbic circuits into regions linked with language and regulation. It's the brain equivalent of turning on the room light. Normalizing prevents your threat detector from ringing louder in protest. It says, "We are not failing, we are functioning." Navigation recruits the planning centers that make good use of your adrenaline rather than letting it splash into arguments or avoidance. You don't need the Latin names to benefit. You need the felt shift of a hand on the railing and a foot on a step. A story: Camilla worked in a studio with windows that looked down onto a corrugated roof. She designed packaging by day and wrote by night. Deadlines were braided around her throat. One Tuesday, her manager sent a message: "Quick revision, client wants a lighter tone." Camilla's stomach dropped. The dice spread. "They hate my taste. I'll be asked to redo everything. I'm falling behind. I don't belong." Her cursor wobbled over reply. She swiveled her chair until one knee touched the desk, as if anchoring herself to the wood. Emotional alchemy ladder. Notice, something is here. Name, this is shame and a splash of fear. Normalize, of course, tight timeline and a vague request. Navigate, she took a 4-4-6 breath, opened a new note, and wrote one sentence to send. "Can you show me 2 brand examples that feel like the lighter tone?" The reply arrived in 3 minutes with concrete references. The die thinned. The water was water again. Let your jaw soften, tongue resting heavy at the floor of your mouth. Hear the faintest sound in your space: a fan, a bird, a train 2 neighborhoods away. If nothing is audible, hear your own breath like distant surf. This is your body's way of learning that attention can hold you. Pair the ladder with a second framework, the 3-perspective reframe. Whether narrows you to one camera angle, the shaky handheld footage of disaster. Reframing swaps angles. The first angle is the street view, your present experience, eyes at human height, feelings valid and messy. The second is balcony view. You float up one story, see patterns and timelines. Remember that every storm has a before and an after. The third is lighthouse view. You stand in the place that remembers your values, your longer arc, the shore you are steering toward. The move is to speak one sentence from each perspective in that order without arguing with any of them. Street: "This email stings and my chest is tight." Balcony: "We've been here before and found footing within an hour." Lighthouse: "I care about clarity and respect. The next action that serves those is to ask for specifics." You become a director with multiple cameras instead of an actor trapped in a single close-up. Bring a small stressor to mind and try this now. Street: "Say the unvarnished sentence you'd write in your private journal." balcony, add one line of context that places this moment in a longer rhythm. Lighthouse, speak your value and the action that matches it in the next 10 minutes. Feel how the air in your body changes as you climb those angles, like moving from a steamy bathroom to a room with an open window. Another breath, slow and thin. Feel your ribs widening not just forward, but to the sides. On the exhale, imagine fog leaving through a cracked window. Your shoulders drop a centimeter without effort. Your reticular activating system, the brain's bouncer, listens for what you label as important. If you declare the storm the only news, your RAS admits more stormy headlines. If you label signals, ladders, and perspectives as VIPs, your RAS opens the rope for them. This is why a named framework matters. It gives your attention a shape to pour into. It makes practice sticky. You are training the doorman to recognize the people who help. To make this real, you'll carry a micro drill called the 2-minute transcript. Anytime you feel flooded by story, open a note or turn to a page and type, or write 2 minutes of raw street view without editing. Then draw a line and write one balcony sentence and one lighthouse sentence. Stop at 2 minutes. The constraint keeps you from spiraling into performance. The line on the page becomes a rung. Over time, you will open the notebook and feel your throat loosen at the sight of that horizontal stroke. A small sensory beat. Rub your thumb slowly across the pad of your index finger. Feel the whirl of your own fingerprint. That texture has been with you through every weather system you've ever known. You are not new to surviving. You are getting excellent at steering. Sometimes the storm rides inside the word always. I always fold. They always forget me. I always overreact. The mind finds certainty intoxicating, even when it hurts. Here you employ a subtle, stern tool, the 1% exception. Ask, when was the 1% case where this didn't happen? Your brain must search memory to answer, and that search turns on a network that competes with the catastrophic loop. When you find a sliver, one meeting where you spoke clearly, one evening you rested instead of doom scrolling, let yourself feel it for at least 3 breaths. The point is not to deny the pattern. It is to remind your body that other channels exist on the dial. Once you remember the channel, it is easier to tune to it. A quick anecdote. Tech dreaded his weekly check-in with a senior partner who dressed like a lighthouse keeper and spoke in clipped knots. 10 minutes before the meeting, Tech's stomach would turn to pebbles. Always, 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 the script said. The 1% exception asked a rude question. When did it go differently? He remembered one afternoon months ago when the partner had chuckled at a clever footnote. That was the exception. On the next check-in, Tech climbed the emotional alchemy ladder, named the fear, normalized it, and chose to open with a brief summary highlighting a playful insight. The partner's mouth twitched upward, not a miracle, a degree of weather shift, enough to steer. Check your posture. If you're folded forward, lift your sternum a forgotten inch. If your jaw is gripping, let it float. Let the back of your tongue rest like a little hammock. Feel your sit bones touch the chair, the ancient proof you are supported. There is a common protest. If I normalize my emotion, won't I excuse bad behavior? No, normalize does not mean justify anyone's actions. It means contextualize your own body's response so you can act with full agency. When you say, of course part of me feels afraid, you are not saying, of course they get to treat me badly. You're loosening the knot so your hands can move. The action that follows may still be a boundary, a refusal, a walkaway. It will be cleaner because it will be chosen. Fold in a third tool that pairs beautifully with the ladder and the 3-perspective reframe. The 90-second weather rule upgraded with the clock face. Picture a clock. Place your emotion at 12. Every 15 seconds, glance internally at 3, 6, 9. At 3, you scan your body from the inside, throat, chest, belly, hands. At 6, you scan the outside world, temperature, sounds, light. At 9, you scan your values, courage, kindness, clarity, whichever you are training this month. At 60 seconds, you're back at 12 with a fuller dashboard. At 90, you choose navigation. This little tour gives your attention anchor points so the seconds don't collapse into a blur. Try a miniature version. Bring up a small irritation. 12. I feel the fizz of anger. 3. Heat in the chest, hands buzzing. 6. Cool air on my forearms, distant traffic. 9. Value, respect. 12 again, I can ask one clean question. Navigation, what specifically would make this acceptable for me? Notice the body's exhale. That is the sound of control returning. Another story, short and ordinary the way life is. Neha sat in a rideshare while rain pebbled the windows. The driver missed a turn, then two. Neha's calendar was tight. Her heart rate jumped like a hooked fish. Old script, silent fume, tight jaw, frigid silence at arrival. She placed a hand on her knee, felt the damp denim. Ladder, notice, name, normalize, navigate. 3. Perspective, street, late and tense. Balcony, traffic and rain increase errors. Lighthouse, I value directness without blame. At the next light she said, maps can be weird here. Want me to share a pin that takes the shortcut? The driver laughed, relieved. They turned. The arrival was 2 minutes later than planned. The weather inside her was 10 degrees calmer than it once would have been. Tiny, real victory. Stack enough of those and you are unrecognizable to yourself in the best way. Let your eyes soften. See the whole room at once, as if the walls breathed a little farther apart. Inhale through your nose like you're smelling rain. Let the exhale be a warm thread. Because your identity follows what you repeat, you'll capture your wins. Not because you need gold stars, but because your nervous system believes what it can sense and see. Each night this week, run the day's weather report. 3 sentences, no more. 1 sentence naming the day's most notable emotion as weather, a low-pressure fog around noon. 1 sentence honoring an action you took. I climbed a rung and asked for clarity. 1 sentence of identity. I am the awareness, not the emotion. That last line matters. You are staking a flag in the ground you return to. If you need an anchor at work, tape a small dot of color to the corner of your screen. Every time your eyes catch it, climb the ladder 1 rung. If you need one in relationships, use the moment you hear your name spoken. Let your name be the bell that calls you to the balcony for 1 breath before you answer from the lighthouse. The mind will test you. It will say, this is too slow, or this is fake, or this is selfish. Those are thoughts, tag them as such. The weather prefers you blown sideways. A steady pilot threatens the old economy of chaos. You don't argue with a storm. You steer by instruments you trust even when visibility drops. Notice, name, normalize, navigate, street, balcony, lighthouse, again and again until your hands know the moves without asking. 1 last rehearsal before we close. Think of the conversation you're avoiding. Feel the first flicker of heat under your sternum. Ladder your way up. Something is here. This is fear and care braided. Of course, a hard topic with someone I respect. Navigation, choose a time, draft the opening 2 sentences that honor both of us. Climb to the balcony. We've had tense talks and survived. Walk to the lighthouse. Value honesty with kindness. Now from the lighthouse, write the first line. There's something important I want to talk through, and I want to do it in a way that works for both of us. Is now or tomorrow better? Read it out loud. Hear your own voice. That voice is the weather vane you've been building. Feel the chair, feel your feet, feel the tiny coolness at the tip of your nose as air moves. You are not trying to stop storms, you are teaching them who you are. You are the sky, unhurried, unconvinced. The weather can color the water, and still the water remains itself. When the next eye blooms, take the steps you've learned softly, consistently, like a pianist practicing scales before a concert. The music you want is made of these quiet repetitions. And one day, in the middle of a meeting or a kitchen or a rainy car, you'll hear a line in your own head that sounds like the truth. You are the awareness, not the emotion. There's a kind of storm that doesn't roar, it erodes. It arrives as tiny compromises that seem polite in the moment and expensive later. You say yes with a tight throat. You nod while your stomach pinches. You tell yourself it's easier to keep the peace, and then you live with a quiet war inside your ribs. Today is the day you learn whether that protects your shoreline, boundaries that are not walls, but dunes, shaped, permeable, resilient. You will learn to say a clean no, a clear yes, and a kind not now. You will learn the sentence you say to yourself before you speak to anyone else. Most of all, you will learn to trust that the person you become when you protect your energy is someone worth meeting. Begin with a framework called the boundary compass. A compass doesn't tell you what to do, it tells you where you are facing. The boundary compass has 4 points: body, value, context, request. Body asks, what does my body say? The splay of your fingers, the cold on your cheeks, the clench behind your eyes. Value asks, which value is at stake? Health, focus, respect, creativity, rest, honesty. Context asks, what are the real constraints right now? Time, capacity, prior commitments. Request asks, what is the cleanest sentence I can say that honors the first 3? You are not hunting for the perfect line. You are aligning with the direction that lets you stand upright. Pause and take one slow 4-4-6 breath. Feel the temperature of the air entering your nose, cooler than the air leaving. Notice the weight of your clothes on your shoulders. Notice the contact of your feet with the floor. This is your body point. It speaks before you form a sentence. Pair the compass with a second framework, the yes filter. It has 3 screens you pass an invitation through in under 30 seconds. Screen 1, alignment. Does this serve the season I'm in? Screen 2, capacity. Do I have the hours and the headroom? Screen 3, cost. What will I trade away if I say yes? If any screen returns a no, you either decline or you negotiate a version that fits. This isn't cold, it's honest. You are not a museum open to the public at all hours. You are a studio where good work is made. A story. In late spring, Hannah's team planned a product sprint. She was the person everyone trusted to pull it together, which was flattering until it became fused to her identity. On Tuesday, a colleague messaged, could you also handle the vendor calls? You're so good with details. Hannah felt the familiar heat in her face, a quick weather front of guilt and duty. Boundary compass. Body, heat in cheeks, a pinch under the ribs. Value, focus, and sustainable pace. Context, already committed to 2 key deliverables. Request, a clean not now with an alternative. She typed, I can't own vendor calls this week without risking the core deliverables. If it helps, I can draft a checklist for whoever takes it. The colleague paused, then said, checklist would be amazing, Taylor can run with it. The storm that used to own her schedule lost a square mile of coastline. Another breath, let your jaw loosen by a few grams, put your tongue to rest at the floor of your mouth. Scan for the quietest sound in your room, a hum, a bird, the tick of something cooling. Soft attention signals safety to the system that thinks speed equals survival. There is a micro-practice that builds boundary muscle in small, safe reps, the 5-breath buffer. When a request comes in, you do not answer for 5 breaths. In those breaths, you run the compass and the yes filter. Breath 1, body. Breath 2, value. Breath 3, context. Breath 4, request. Breath 5, the tone, kind and firm. This ritual takes about 25 seconds, and it rewires a lifelong habit of reflexive compliance. You will be astonished how many storms pass in that half-minute, how many urgent asks turn out to be preferences dressed as emergencies. Here's the science the storm doesn't want you to know. Your habituated yes lives in the amygdala's love of approval and belonging. It predicts safety if others are pleased. Delaying your response by even a handful of breaths re-engages prefrontal circuits for planning and language, letting you translate fear into clarity. You are not ghosting anyone. You are inviting the wise part of you back to the microphone. An anecdote from a kitchen at 7:30 p.m. Malik was stirring onions as his partner leaned on the counter and said, "Could you look over my presentation tonight? It's tomorrow morning." In the old weather, Malik would swallow his sigh and say yes, then simmer resentment alongside the onions. That night, he felt the tight ring at the base of his skull. 5-breath buffer, body, ring of tension, value, presence at home and rest, context, already behind on sleep. Request, a clean boundary with a caring plan. He wiped his hands, looked up and said, "I want to help. I can give it a solid 20 minutes now, or I can do a focused hour at 6 a.m. Which do you prefer?" The storm tried to argue, be easygoing, but the compass had already set the course. His partner chose the morning hour. They ate in peace. The weather shifted from covert thunder to honest clouds. Return to your body. Feel the weight of your sit bones on the chair. Lift your sternum 1 inch as if the air itself was supporting it. Let your shoulders settle down your back. The posture of a boundary is the posture of breathing room. Sometimes you fear that a boundary will be heard as rejection. Here you use a tool called the kind contour. Every boundary has 3 contours: affirmation, information, invitation. Affirmation acknowledges what you appreciate or intend. "I care about this," or "I want to be helpful." Information states the boundary in a single, concrete sentence. "I won't be available tonight," or "I can't take this on." Invitation offers a pathway that fits your capacity. "I can review 2 slides tomorrow," or "Here's a template you can use." The sequence matters. Affirmation opens the door. Information is the frame. Invitation is the path that keeps connection alive without sacrificing your shoreline. Test it now with a small scenario. A friend texts, "Can you help me move this weekend?" Your old weather says yes and hopes for rain. Kind contour, "I love you and want your move to go smoothly. I can't lift this weekend, but I can drop off packing supplies Friday or bring lunch Sunday." Which helps more? You are not less generous. You are exactly as generous as you can sustainably be. Another sensory beat. Slide your thumb slowly over your opposite palm and notice the texture of your skin, the warmth, the slight tack where sweat meets air. Your nervous system learns that you can feel a boundary in your body before you speak it with your mouth, which means you can catch the moment you used to bulldoze past. There will be pushback. People accustomed to your unguarded shoreline will notice the dunes. Some will adapt, some will test. Use the framework called the 2-line recenter. When someone presses after a clear boundary, you repeat the boundary and the reason in 1 sentence, then end with the next step. "I won't be available to take this on. I'm at capacity with existing commitments. If you need another set of eyes, Taylor is open." Do not add apology frosting. Do not explain your entire calendar. 2 lines, warm tone, steady breath. Repetition, not escalation. A story from a startup where the carpet was always a little dusty with Sprint. Priya managed a small team and had learned to be the resident shock absorber. A senior engineer pinged at 9:18 p.m. Need a quick review for prod push. Priya's stomach knotted. She had promised herself a screen-off night. 5-breath buffer, kind contour drafted in her head. I care about the release and your work. I'm off devices for the night. If the push can wait, I'll review at 7 and respond by 7:30. If not, loop Alex. There was a beat, then 7 works. She placed her phone face down and felt her shoulders drop as if someone had unhooked a backpack. Weather report, clear skies with a sturdy breeze. Let your eyes soften to see the whole room without fixating on one object. Hear the room, smell the air, taste the quiet. The more senses you recruit, the more your body trusts that boundaries are not danger, they are oxygen. You'll meet a tricky front called the faker's fog. It sounds like, if I were stronger I wouldn't need rest, or a better person could say yes to everything. The antidote is the energy budget. You carry 20 units of energy a day, not literal but felt. Basic life consumes 12. That leaves 8 for discretionary yeses. Each yes has a price. Review a typical day and tag your yeses with unit costs. Stakeholders meeting 2. Mentoring call 1. Gym 1. Family logistics 2. Unexpected fire 3. The math is not punitive, it's sobering. When you hit 8, you stop saying yes. If you must spend beyond, you deliberately withdraw from tomorrow's discretionary 8 and schedule replenishment. This prevents a storm pattern called the burn spiral, where multiple days of overdraft distort your judgment and turn small asks into enemies. Science again, short and useful. Energy budgeting is a way of working with your nervous system's limited glucose and attention. Your prefrontal cortex tires like a muscle. Treating it as such is not weakness. It is athletic self-respect. Boundaries are not a personality makeover. They are resource management. An anecdote with fluorescent light and old carpet. Ezra taught high school and loved it, except the extras devoured his week. He coached debate, ran the newsletter, and said yes to every committee. One autumn, he started the energy budget and the yes filter. When the principal asked him to co-lead a new initiative, he felt the old pride weather and the new pull of math. He said, I'm honored you thought of me. I have 8 discretionary units a day. This role looks like a 3-unit daily spend. That would push me past sustainable. I can contribute 1 unit by designing the kickoff training, then I need to step back. The principal blinked, then grinned. I've never heard it put that way. Let's take the 1 unit. Ezra walked home that day with the light on his shoulders instead of in his head. Return to your breath. Inhale as if smelling rain on warm pavement. Hold just long enough to feel your ribs widen. Exhale like letting air out of a balloon you don't want to squeal. Feel the back of your neck lengthen. Boundaries sound like this in your body. You might ask, what if the person is offended? You cannot control another's weather. You can control your forecast language. Use phrases that are honest without theater. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I can do X, not Y. I'm a no to this and a yes to staying connected. You say them with the same tone you used to say your address, firm, not sharp, clear, not brittle. If someone insists on a storm, that is information you needed sooner. Here's a ritual that will change a corridor of your life in a week. The morning shoreline. Before you open messages, write 3 lines. 1 value you're protecting today. 1 no you anticipate and the sentence you'll use. 1 yes you will give generously because it aligns. Keep the paper in your pocket. At noon, read it. At 5, read it again. You are telling your inner weather service what counts as storm, what counts as breeze, and what counts as navigation. A short scene that tastes like coffee. You sit across from a friend who's late again, 15 minutes and one apology short. The old you swallows and entertains with a tight smile. The new you runs the compass under the table. Body, a tight band across the chest. Value, mutual respect. Context, this is the third time. Request, simple and kind. After the warm start you say, I love seeing you and I want these coffees to work for both of us. When you're late, I feel rushed. Can we try a different time or aim for on time for the next 3? The friend's face flushes. Maybe they bristle, maybe they soften. Either way, you know where you stand, upright, breathing. A sensory beat. Place your hand over your heart and feel the small thud. The world may ask you to scatter yourself. It is your work to gather. Feel the thud again. That is the drum of a life being conducted on purpose. Sometimes the boundary is with yourself. You promise a quiet evening and then fill it with distraction. The framework here is the gentle gate. You choose a start and end time for one nourishing act, a walk, a page of writing, a phone-free hour, and you guard it as if it were a meeting with someone you admire. When the impulse to break the promise rises, you say, not now, the way you would to a toddler reaching for a hot pan, not with anger, with care. At the end of the gate, you name the identity you're feeding. I am someone who keeps small promises to myself. Identity follows repetition. Repetition follows gates. Close with a rehearsal. Picture an ask you expect this week that usually sweeps you. See the message bubble or the doorway. Feel the first lift of pressure under your sternum. 5-breath buffer. Compass, body, value, context, request. Yes, filter, alignment, capacity, cost. Kind contour, affirmation, information, invitation. 2-line recenter ready if needed. Speak the line in your own voice now, wherever you are. Notice the aftertaste, not guilt, but relief. Relief is the weather you get when the shoreline holds. Feel the chair under you, feel the air on your forearms, hear something small in the room. Say softly, almost too quietly to hear, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Say it again, I am the awareness, not the storm. Boundaries are how that awareness takes shape in the world. They are you choosing the forecast you can live inside. The dunes are not there to keep love out. They're there so love has somewhere to land. There's a storm that looks like glitter. It doesn't scare you, it seduces you. You sit down to do the thing that matters and a gust of sparkle lifts your attention like confetti. A notification trembles. A new idea flashes. The fridge hums a little louder than usual. 10 minutes later, you're in a tab you didn't know existed, reading a paragraph you don't need, mind buzzing but unfulfilled. This is not a moral failure. It is a physics problem. Attention follows energy, and unguarded energy follows novelty. Today you will build shelter for your focus, a greenhouse where important work grows even while the wind plays outside. You will feel what it's like to do one thing all the way to done. You will learn to reward your brain for depth, so it chooses depth again. Start with a framework called the Focus Greenhouse. A greenhouse has 3 features. It is bounded, it is warmed, and it is tended. Bounded means you choose a small plot for one plant at a time. Warmed means you create conditions your nervous system reads as safe enough for sustained effort. Tended means you check in, not to judge, but to feed and prune. The Focus Greenhouse works in 30-minute cycles. You walk in with one plant, draft the email, review the chapter, code the function, study the concept. You close the door, you raise the temperature with breath and ritual, and you touch only that plant until the bell chimes. When the cycle ends, You step out, water yourself with a micro-reward, and choose whether to return. Take a sensory pause and warm the soil. Sit so your feet are flat and your knees are uncrossed. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel the weight of your hands where they rest. On the exhale, imagine fog leaving the edges of your attention like breath on glass. Do it twice more. If you can, whisper one plant as you begin. Your reticular activating system, the brain's bouncer, hears the password and lets the right guests through. Pair the greenhouse with a second framework, the one-tab promise. Attention leaks through open portals. Your brain checks them the way a night guard checks doors. The promise is simple. For the duration of your greenhouse cycle, one window, one app, one surface. If the task requires reference material, you prepare it before you begin and then you lock the gate. You write the promise physically on a sticky note, one tab until 30. The specificity is not cute, it's neuroscience. Your brain likes rules it can enforce. When curiosity knocks, what about that email? You don't argue. You point to the note the way you'd point to a sign on a museum wall. Not now. The art is being restored. A story. In a small apartment with a window that faced an alley, Ren sat at a second-hand desk with a cup of cinnamon tea. She had 40 minutes before a call and a draft due tomorrow. Her habit was to nibble at the draft and snack on tabs. Today she built the greenhouse. She set a 30-minute timer and whispered, one plant. She wrote the one-tab promise and placed it under her left thumb where it touched the desk. 10 minutes in, an idea for a different project pitched its tent in her head. She felt the glitter gust at the edges of her attention. She used a tool you'll adopt now, the idea parking card. She reached for a small index card, wrote a quick headline, pitch angle for the podcast intro, and slid the card face down. Back to the plant. 16 clean sentences later, the timer chimed. The draft had a spine. The alley was still an alley. The storm had found less to grip. Let your eyes soften so you can see the whole room without moving them. Notice 3 shades of the same color around you. Feel the air where it touches the back of your neck. The senses are the warm lamps in your greenhouse. They tell your animal body that nothing hunts you here. Behind the scenes, your brain is managing dopamine, the neurotransmitter of seeking and reward. Novelty spikes it, progress stabilizes it. When your attention skitters, it's not because you're weak, it's because seeking feels chemically delicious. The focus greenhouse captures that chemistry and teaches it to love completion. At the end of each 30-minute cycle, you deliver a tiny, unambiguous reward to your system. Stand and stretch, sip something cold, look out a window at a far distance, whisper, done. Oh, the whisper matters. You are consolidating a story. We finish. Layer in a micro-practice called the 90-second focus lock. Before you enter the greenhouse, you lock your attention to the first tiny action of the task for 90 seconds with 0 tolerance for deviation. If you are drafting, the lock is type without editing until the first period. If you are studying, the lock is read the first paragraph and underline one key phrase. If you are coding, the lock is write the function signature and one comment line. The lock tricks your friction into moving. Motion reduces resistance. In those 90 seconds, you don't ask if the plant is thriving. You get soil under your nails. Another anecdote. Saul worked in a newsroom where the walls themselves seemed to ping. He loved the hum, hated the scatter. He started carrying a coin. Each cycle he completed in the greenhouse, he flipped the coin from his left pocket to his right. He called it his depth tally. One day a colleague interrupted. Quick, did you see? Saul smiled, pointed at his one-tab promise and said, at 20. He wasn't rude. He was a gardener mid-watering. 4 coins in the right pocket by lunch changed the taste of his day. He stopped going home with the metallic tang of half-started everything. He started sleeping like a person again. Notice your breath. Imagine it traveling down the back of your throat and pooling low below your navel. On the exhale, imagine dust settling in a shaft of light. If you can, adjust your posture one notch toward dignity, the posture of someone who tends things that matter. You will meet the enemy of focus called residue. When you switch tasks, a portion of your attention lingers where you were. The mind keeps refreshing that page in the background and your working memory pays the power bill. The antidote is the closing ritual. At the end of a cycle, write a single sentence labeled "Next Micro Start," followed by the exact first action you will take when you return. Next Micro Start, open draft, and add 3 verbs to paragraph 2. Then close your materials like you would close a door gently in a house you love. Your brain releases the tab because it trusts you will return to a clear doorknob. Residue drains, capacity returns. Now install the guardrails. This is the third framework of the day, the trigger plan guard loop. You identify 3 glitter triggers, your specific confetti, the things that steal you. Plan is the action you'll take when they appear. Guard is what protects the plan. Trigger, phone vibrates. Plan, flip phone face down and place out of reach. Guard, do not disturb with a white list of emergencies and your phone literally across the room. Trigger, thought of a different idea. Plan, idea parking card. Guard, cards at hand, visible, crisp. Trigger, urge to check messages. Plan, 1-tab promise. Guard, log out or blocker during the 30 minutes. You loop this so often it becomes background choreography. Storms notice and go bother someone else for a while. A small sensory beat. Place your palm on the surface in front of you. Feel the temperature. If it's wood, notice the grain under your skin. If it's metal, notice the cool firmness. This is the touch of the greenhouse table where you work. Familiarity is scaffolding for focus. Sometimes the glitter is internal, self-talk that scatters you with doubt. Here you use a method called the editor's bench. You picture a long wooden bench in your greenhouse where the inner editor sits during your cycles. The editor is not fired. They are simply given a start time. Before you begin, you say out loud, "Drafting now." Editor comes in at 30. When the voice starts, "This sentence is junk," you nod toward the bench. Your turn in 20 minutes. This separation is imaginary and totally effective. It shifts you from fused to friendly, from self-attack to teamwork. Curiously, your output improves because you're no longer slashing sprouts as they emerge. A story from a studio apartment where the radiator hissed like a cat. Mina was preparing slides for a talk and heard the old chorus rise, "Not smart enough, not smooth enough." She saw the editor reclining, leg bouncing. 30, she said, pointing at the clock. The editor rolled eyes in a way that was both insulting and endearing, then settled. Mina moved text boxes without flinching. At 30, the editor came to the table with a pencil instead of a sword. 5-minute pass, trim repetition, choose stronger verbs. The storm turned collaborator. Breathe as if smelling orange peel. Let the exhale be warm and slow. See if you can hear a sound in the room beyond the obvious ones. Every time you recruit a sense, you bring blood back to the front of your brain where choices are made. Your attention is an animal you can train with consistent cues. Install the arrival sequence at the start of any greenhouse cycle. Anchor, aim, act. Anchor is the breath and the posture. Aim is a single sentence out loud. For the next 30, I craft the opening. Act is the 90-second focus lock. This sequence is short enough to repeat in every setting, private enough to do in public, powerful enough to reshape a day. If you need a way to measure depth without making it a performance, use the green dots. Each completed cycle earns a small green dot on your calendar, in your notebook, on a wall chart behind a door. Not gold stars for the world, chlorophyll for your eyes. The goal is not to collect forever. It is to teach your nervous system that effort and completion create a pattern of reward. When you skip a day, you do not punish. You start the greenhouse again. Gardens recover after wind, so do you. Let your jaw unclench. Slide your lower teeth slightly away from the upper and leave them there. Feel how the tongue relaxes. Sense your forearms, the pull of gravity, the way your palms can soften while your fingers are ready to work. This is the posture of deep focus, soft where you can be, precise where you must be. For the next week, carry a practice called the 3x3 distraction detox. 3 times a day, you run a 3-minute mini greenhouse on micro-tasks that tend to fragment, clearing your physical workspace, triaging messages, or organizing your to-dos. The rules are the same: 1-tab promise, 90-second focus lock, closing ritual. You are not pretending these tasks are your life's work. You are placing them in their own planters so they stop strangling the things that are. After a few days, you'll notice your larger cycles feel cleaner. The storm loses the footholds it used to climb. A quick scene, you, late afternoon, brain like a field of static. The old pattern is to open one more tab and call it work. The new pattern is the 2-minute reset walk, stand, walk to a door, touch the frame, say new sky, then run one microcycle on the smallest piece of the important task. When the timer ends, you check your body. If the hum has lowered, you book another cycle. If not, you stop pretending and rest on purpose. This honesty is oxygen. There is a protest, but my job requires instant responses. Sometimes that is true. Even so, the greenhouse has a place. You carve 1 or 2 cycles a day where deep work gets the front seat. You negotiate with your team. I'm offline from 10 to 40 for focused work. If there's a fire, call twice. You keep that promise both directions. Scarcity makes the cycles precious. Scarcity makes you inventive. Many storms are made of expectations you never questioned. Question them. Science short and simple. Task switching costs time and sponges glucose. Even tiny switches add up. Your brain needs biochemical signals to justify staying with one thing. The arrival sequence, the 1-tab promise, the closing ritual, they're signals. They tell your system a hunt is happening and a meal is coming. Over time, your dopamine curve bends toward depth. You stop trying to be everywhere at once and start being fully where your hands are. An anecdote about a long table and the smell of coffee. Nico studied for exams in a library that felt like a church. He used the green dots, stacking them like beads. On day 4, he noticed something strange. He wanted the dots not out of fear, but because the feeling after a cycle was clean. He started guarding the feeling the way people guard a morning run. He became the kind of person who left the library with a quiet smile and eyes that didn't sting. The storm could still rattle the windows. Inside, plants grew. Check in with your senses again. Feel the temperature at your earlobes. Feel the subtle sway of your body even when you think you are still. Hear the smallest sound. You are showing your animal that focus is not a cage. It is a pasture with a fence where you can run without checking the horizon every second. Before we close, build a personal focus cue you'll use for months. Choose a scent, a song with no words, or a position of an object that means work begins. Light the scent, play 20 seconds of the song, place the object, maybe a pen parallel to the edge of the desk. Then stop the song, set the timer, whisper the aim, and lock in. Over time, the cue will build a bridge from wherever you are to the greenhouse door. Your system will start to arrive ahead of you. Now practice. Think of one task you've been circling. Picture it small enough to live in a 30-minute pot. See yourself write the one-tab promise, hear the timer click, feel your fingers touch the surface of the table. Anchor, aim, act. When a glitter thought arrives, slide it under a card. When doubt speaks, nod at the editor's bench. At the bell, write your next micro start, stand, and sip water like someone who just watered the exact plant that matters. The feeling you get is not hype. It is sovereignty. You are not trying to become a machine. Machines don't know the joy of finishing a sentence that mattered. You are becoming a steward of your attention, a gardener of hours. The weather will keep advertising itself. You will keep stepping into your greenhouse, closing the door with a soft, deliberate hand, and doing the work you came here to do. As you exhale, say the line that threads this all together. You are the awareness, not the emotion, and also not the glitter. You are the sky that chooses where the light lands. Today it lands on one plant, for one honest stretch, and tomorrow it will be easier because you train the light to listen. There's a weather pattern that forms from words. Not thunder this time, but a steady drizzle that soaks you through before lunch. It sounds like, "Of course I messed that up, typical me, they're being polite. What's the point?" On bad days it's a downpour. On ordinary days it's mist that blurs the edges of what you could see clearly. You don't notice the voice starting. You notice the way your shoulders round, the way your eyes slide away from your own work, the way your hand hovers over the send button and decides to wait. Today you will become a meteorologist of language. You'll learn to spot the front as it forms and switch frequencies without pretending everything is fine. You'll replace the bully in the booth with a coach who tells the weather and plots the route through it. Begin with a framework called the language lever. A lever is small compared to what it moves. Your language lever has 4 settings: catch, classify, convert, and commit. Catch is the moment you hear a sentence inside your head and tag it as speech rather than truth. Classify is sorting the sentence into one of 3 buckets: fact, fear, or fiction. Convert is where you translate the sentence into language that helps you steer: precise, present, possible. Commit is a micro-action aligned with the converted line. The lever only works if you pull it quickly and lightly. No lectures, just the click of a switch when you hear the drizzle begin. Try it on a small example. The sentence arrives, "I always sound dumb in meetings." Catch, you hear it as a sentence, not a sky law. Classify, fiction with a splash of fear. Convert, sometimes I rush. I can slow my first sentence and ask one clarifying question. Commit, you set a reminder on your notepad that says one breath, one question. You didn't fight the weather, you changed your coat and your pace. Pause, feel the air cool your nostrils more than it warms your exhale. Notice the shape your spine is making. Lift your sternum half an inch without straightening like a soldier. Allow your shoulders to drift down and slightly back. That posture alone changes the sound of your inner voice because the throat opens. Body's laid, language follows. Pair the lever with a second framework, the inner coach protocol. You've met your inner critic. Today you hire the coach and give them a job description. The coach speaks in 5 traits: specific, steady, short, science-aware, self-respecting. Specific means it talks about this task, this moment, not your entire character. Steady means tone like a trail guide, not a drill sergeant. Short means sentences that fit on one breath. Science-aware means it references how bodies and brains work. Long exhale now. Name the thought, not magical thinking. Self-respecting means it refuses to use insults as motivation. The protocol has 2 steps, pre-brief and mid-route. Pre-brief is the one-line plan you say before you enter a situation. slow first sentence, then ask. Mid-root is the two-line adjustment you make when the storm curls. Long exhale, smallest wise action. With repetition, the coach becomes the voice your RAS admits first. A story, in a glass-walled room with a whiteboard that still smelled faintly like solvent, Joe had to present a roadmap. Old Weather said, "Don't trip, don't ramble, don't be boring," which made her tongue heavy and her breath skip. She installed the language lever at the door. Catch, you're going to blank. Classify fear, convert. If I pause for one breath before each section, I'll think clearly. Commit, she wrote on her first slide, tiny at the bottom, one breath. Then she ran the inner coach pre-brief, slow first sentence, then ask for reactions at the end of each chunk. In the middle, when someone interrupted with a sideways request, she heard the drip, "You're losing them," and the coach replied, "Exhale, anchor feet, finish the sentence." She finished, then said, "I'll park that and address it after the second point." The room stayed with her. The storm got bored and wandered down the hall. Take a sensory beat. Feel the temperature of the room on the bridge of your nose. Feel the weight of your tongue resting on the floor of your mouth. Listen for the faintest sound you can detect. A fan, a bird, someone's footsteps one floor up. These tiny signals pull blood back to the planning part of you that can speak with care. Here's the science behind the lever. Negativity bias primes your attention to overweigh threats, and language is one of the fastest conveyors of threat. A sentence like always or never recruits limbic circuits the way a siren recruits a crowd. When you tag a sentence as fear or fiction, you are doing cognitive diffusion, stepping back from thoughts as objects. The convert step recruits frontal language networks that modulate limbic activity. You don't need those labels in your pocket. You need the felt experience that when you change 5 words, your body's weather changes with them. Install a micro practice called the 3 swaps. Anytime you catch a stormy sentence, you perform 3 quick substitutions, from absolute to episode, from identity to behavior, from catastrophe to contingency. Absolute to episode swaps, always never, for today this time in this context. Identity to behavior replaces I am X with I did X, or I'm doing X. Catastrophe to contingency trades, it will all fall apart for if then. You can do this in 3 breaths. I always freeze becomes, today I stalled on the first question, next time I'll breathe before I answer. Feel the difference in your chest. Language is weather. This is how you change the wind. Another story, smaller in scope, the way storms often are. Ava texted a friend to set a plan and didn't hear back by evening. The drizzle whispered, "She's annoyed with you." Ava caught it. Classified fiction, converted, people get busy, I'll send a gentle nudge tomorrow. Committed, she put a reminder for 10 a.m. and closed the chat. At 9:12 the next morning, the friend replied with 3 apologetic hearts and a screenshot of chaos. The ocean was not red, it was morning light. Return to your body. Place 1 palm on your sternum and 1 on your lower abdomen. Breathe into the lower hand for 4, hold 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, notice the small lift under your top palm where your heart beats. On the exhale, feel your shoulders settle as if dust were gently falling on a shelf. The coach loves this breath. It makes room for better lines. To make the coach concrete, you'll build the script bank. Spend 10 minutes once, then add to it in the margins of days. The bank holds tiny phrases you like the taste of, ready to deploy under weather. Examples that fit the 5 traits: slow first sentence, anchor feet, ask 1 clean question, long exhale then choose, name the thought, smallest wise action. I can do hard things in small pieces. Put them on a card, in your phone, on the first page of your notebook. The point is not poetry, it is availability. Under stress, you will not invent, you will reach. Give yourself something worth reaching for. Layer in a drill called the 2-minute voice memo. Before a potentially stormy event, performance review, hard call, creative sprint, you record a message to yourself from the coach. Keep it under 60 seconds, 1 breath per sentence. You know your material. Slow your first line. If you feel the heat, name it silently and exhale long. Ask one clarifying question before you commit. Back after, note one thing you did well. Then you play it once on your way in and once on your way out. Hearing your own voice in a steady tone is a neurological shortcut. Mirror neurons don't care that the voice is yours. They hear calm and broadcast calm. A quick anecdote. Rio, a med student with a calendar like a Tetris board, recorded a memo before each rotation briefing. His old weather was an inner monologue that chased errors. The new weather sounded like, scan the room, breathe, ask one priority question. After a month, attendings kept saying the same phrase, "You're composed." Rio wasn't less anxious. He had a lever and a coach. He had rehearsed a voice that belonged to the sky, not the storm. Check the temperature at your earlobes. Notice the cool ring of air at the entrance of each nostril. Let your jaw slacken by a fraction, teeth not touching. These small cues make it easier to hear the difference between a bully and a guide in your head. Now meet a common squall, shame spirals. Shame says, you are bad, not you did something badly. To weather it, use the framework called the gentle mirror. It has 3 panes: accountability, affection, adjustment. Accountability is the plain statement of what occurred without courtroom flourish. Affection is the sentence you would say to someone you love in the same position. You say it to yourself out loud if you can. Adjustment is the next smallest wise action that reduces future storms. Example, I missed the deadline by a day. That's accountability. Of course I'm upset. This matters to me and I'm tired. That's affection. I'll send a brief apology and a new specific time, and I'll set a midpoint check next time. Adjustment. Notice there is no self-swinging at the mirror. Mirrors reflect, they don't punish. Story. In a co-working space that smelled like coffee and ambition, Danny sent a draft without a key figure. The client replied, missing chart. Danny felt the flush that usually turns into hours of self-attack. Gentle mirror. I sent it incomplete. Accountability. Of course I feel embarrassed. Affection. I'll attach the chart, add a 2-sentence note on the change, and set an internal checklist. Adjustment. She typed, sent, stood, and ran cool water over her wrists. The weather didn't clear instantly, but it didn't become a hurricane. That alone is a different life. Another breath. Feel your seat against the chair, 2 points on each side, the old proof that gravity holds you. Notice the soft stretch at the base of your skull as you lift your gaze slightly. You are signaling to your body that the horizon is safe to look at. Sometimes the critic in your head borrows other people's voices. Here you'll use the origin label. When a sentence arrives, you're too much. Be practical, ask, whose weather is this? Maybe it's a parent's anxiety, a teacher's impatience, a boss's scarcity. Labeling origin doesn't blame, it gives you distance. Then you apply the language lever. Catch, this is my 7th grade teacher's tone. Classify fear, not fact. Convert, boldness is welcome here. I can test the idea small. Commit, send the 1-sentence pitch. The sky you stand under becomes your own. Add a sensory beat. With 2 fingers, trace the outline of your opposite thumb slowly, noticing the ridge of the nail, the softness of the pad. This simple act pulls you into present data and away from the museum of old voices. There is a micro-practice you can run 3 times a day that rewires your default broadcast. The RAS tune. For 60 seconds, you speak out loud a precise, present, possible sentence about who you are becoming and what you are doing now. Not affirmations that pretend the storm is gone, instructions that prime your filter. I speak slowly and ask one clarifying question. I finish one block of focused work. I set clean boundaries with a kind tone. Because it is voiced and specific, your reticular activating system learns to prioritize cues that match. Over a week, you'll notice you catch yourself mid-storm and switch channels faster, like a driver whose hand knows where the wiper control is without looking. A scene in a hallway, you're walking toward a room where you usually compress yourself. The old sentence is already cueing the muscles in your throat. RAS tune, I take one breath at the door, stand tall, and speak one clear sentence. You touch the doorframe, sanctuary, and the coach whispers, slow first line. You feel the cool air at your lips. You step in. The first words come out warm and paced. You've just changed the forecast. Because identity follows repetition, you'll cap each day with the weather archive. 2 lines, written or voice noted. Line 1 starts, today I turned this sentence, and you write the exact critique. Line 2 starts, into this guidance, and you write the converted version. Once a week, read the archive out loud for 3 minutes. You will hear your growth like listening to your own voice deepen on old recordings. That sound becomes part of the sky you carry. Let's rehearse with a bigger front. You're about to have a hard conversation with someone you love. The drizzle starts. You'll make it worse. You're too much. You'll fold. Language lever. Catch, classify, fear, convert. I can speak from care and be specific. Commit, write the opening sentence. There's something I want to talk through because I care about us. Inner coach pre-brief. Slow first sentence, 1 example, 1 request. Gentle mirror on standby if you wobble, accountability, affection, adjustment. RAS tune at the threshold, I speak calmly and clearly. You feel your feet on the floor, you lift your sternum a notch. The room is the same, the sky inside you is new. Another story, different setting. Tarek trained for a 10K and heard the old critic on every hill, you're weak. He labeled the origin his first coach, a man who thought cruelty built endurance. Language lever, catch, classify, fiction disguised as motivation. Convert, this hill trains my lungs slow and steady up. Commit, count 20 steps, then 20 more. He finished the run with quieter weather than he'd ever known. The hill didn't shrink, the voice did. Return to breath. Inhale through your nose like you're smelling cut grass. Hold for 4, feel your ribs widen to the sides. Exhale for 6 and imagine a warm fog leaving your body through the back of your shoulders. Notice the heat in your palms cooling slightly as you breathe. This is the sound of your system learning that words can heal what words once harmed. You might wonder, isn't this fake? Am I sugarcoating reality? No, precision is the opposite of sugar. You are stripping out catastrophizing and installing instructions. When you say, I can ask one clear question, you are not denying difficulty. You are deciding what you do in difficulty. That creates data. Then the next time you don't need faith, you have memory. The storm respects results. Give yourself a cue object for your language lever, a thin band, a coin, a pen you clip to your shirt. Each time you feel it, ask, what sentence am I broadcasting? If it's drizzle, pull the lever. If it's guidance, say good and proceed. Your RAS will learn touch means tune. Close with practice, bring to mind a situation coming up that often triggers the critic. Hear the first sharp line it usually delivers, catch it, classify it, convert it to something your coach would say, specific and short, commit to one micro-action that matches, say the converted line out loud right now, softly, then again, a hair firmer. Feel the lines settle into your chest the way a key finds the notch. Put a hand on your sternum. Whisper the identity sentence that threads this whole work. You are the awareness, not the emotion, and not the old broadcast either. You are the sky, and today you choose the weather report. As you stand, you'll still hear rain on some days. That's fine. You will walk with an umbrella you built from sentences that respect you. You will watch storms pass faster because you stopped narrating them as destiny. You will be surprised, again and again, by how different life tastes when the voice in your head plants instead of poisons. This is not about pretending the forecast is sunny. It's about learning to speak like someone who knows how to travel in any season. Feel your feet. Feel the cool air at the tip of your nose. Hear the smallest sound. Then carry this with you like a good line from a friend. The way you talk to yourself is the climate of your life. Change the climate, and countless small weathers change with it. There's a kind of storm that feels like static in your bones. Not panic, not sadness, just a depleted hum that turns every choice into wet cardboard. You wake with grit behind your eyes and a list that looks taller than you are. You toggle between tasks without crossing any finish line. You promise yourself a clean start after coffee, after one more scroll, after the next small thing, and the day slides sideways. This is wear and tear weather, decision fatigue, micro-stress, the slow leak of your batteries. Today you will learn to generate pockets of clear air on demand, not by pushing harder, but by switching systems. You will learn how to reboot biology first, then mind, then moves. You will feel what it's like to press a reset button you carry everywhere. Begin with a framework called the 60-second circuit breaker. It has 3 quick toggles you flip in order: physiology, posture, place. Physiology is a single breath pattern or temperature cue that tells your nervous system you are not in danger. Posture is a tiny adjustment that unlocks oxygen and authority in your voice. Place is a micro change in environment that signals a new chapter to your brain's filter, the reticular activating system. In practice, it sounds like this: 1-4-4-6 breath, then raise your sternum a notch and soften your jaw, then shift your body 2 steps to the left or touch a doorframe and say, "New sky." 60 seconds. Storm interrupts itself. You didn't think your way out, you rerouted electricity. Try it now. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel the weight of your hands where they rest. On the exhale, part your lips and let your jaw hang a fraction heavier. Lift your sternum a polite inch as if someone had just said your name kindly across a room. Now slide your chair back 2 inches or stand and touch a wall. Whisper, "New sky." Your animal body just learned that resets are cheap and available. Pair the circuit breaker with a second framework, the tiny ramp. Fatigue hates stairs, it tolerates ramps. A tiny ramp is a 90-180-second glide that turns friction into motion without theatrics. The ramp has 3 segments: prime, pin, push. Prime is a single sensory cue: scent, song snippet, or cold splash. Pin is one ultra-specific next action: 10 keystrokes, 1 sentence, 1 drawer, 1 call setup, not work on project. Push is a short burst timer, 90 seconds to 3 minutes, where you do only the pinned action, then stop on purpose. Stopping is crucial. It leaves a clean edge your brain wants to pick up again. 2 or 3 ramps in a row become momentum without you burning the last of your matches. A story: early winter, Neil sat in a grey cubicle with a wool hat still warming his ears. He had to write a summary his director would read by noon. The summary was small. The fog in his head was not. He stared, toggled, rehearsed 2 self-insults and felt time quicksand around his ankles. Circuit breaker, breath, sternum lift. 2 steps to the coat hook, hand on the metal, new sky, tiny ramp. Prime, he opened the window crack to let cold air kiss his cheeks for 10 breaths. Pin write 3 bullets of what changed since last report. Push 90-second timer. He typed 9 lines and stopped. The stop created hunger. Another ramp. Prime, sip cold water. Pin, convert the first bullet into 1 sentence for the director. Push 2 minutes. Sentence landed. The fog didn't vanish, but it thinned enough for him to see the path. By 11:26, the summary was out the door. He didn't conquer a dragon, he paved a ramp. Pause and check your instruments. Feel the texture of your tongue against the floor of your mouth. Feel the contact of your feet with the ground, 10 toes inside socks or shoes. Hear the quietest sound in your space. Let your exhale become a warm thread. These sensory beats are your cheapest primers. There is science beneath these small moves. Your brain works in ultradian rhythms, waves of energy and focus that crest roughly every 90 minutes. When you're in a trough, your prefrontal cortex acts like a phone at 5% battery, dimmer, laggy, bad at pictures and plans. Fighting the trough with force invites sloppy storms. The circuit breaker and tiny ramp respect biology. You dip into the body for leverage, you pin something so small it dodges resistance, and you push just long enough to tip inertia. Over days, this becomes an identity shift. Not the person who waits for motivation, but the person who can create ignition. Install a micro-practice called Sip Splash C. Anytime you feel the static, you drink a half glass of water, sip. Run cool water over wrists or splash your face if private, splash, and then look at the farthest point you can see for 10 seconds. See. The sip gives cells what they're often begging for. The splash activates trigeminal nerve endings linked to calm. Distance vision resets near focus strain. 2 minutes, 0 philosophy. Then you ramp. Another scene. Lacey worked from home at a small round table with a plant that leaned toward the window like a listener. Her inbox read 41. Her shoulders read storm incoming. She had promised herself she would not binge clear messages at the cost of the work that mattered. She used the framework called the Keystone Slice, a cousin to the tiny ramp that you'll steal now. Pick the one task that, if progressed, makes everything else easier or less necessary. Cut a visible slice. The slice must be tangible, a paragraph, a diagram, a test case, not a valiant intention. Lacey placed her palm on the plant's pot, felt the cool ceramic, whispered new sky, then set a 3-minute push to sketch the outline of a proposal's introduction. The outline arrived, lopsided and alive. The static hissed, softer now like rain 2 streets over. She rewarded herself with 30 seconds of standing at the window, see, and returned for a second slice. By lunch, 2 slices stacked. The inbox could wait without owning her. Feel your breath again. Imagine it falling into your belly like a stone into a pond. On the exhale, imagine ripples moving outward through your ribcage. Feel the back of your neck lengthen. Fatigue makes you fold. You will unfold by millimeters. Sometimes the storm of depletion isn't from tasks at all. It's from micro-tensions held in your body like a collection you never meant to start. Clenched jaw, lifted shoulders, shallow chest. Use a protocol called the 3 unlocks. Jaw, shoulders, breath. Jaw unlock. Place the tip of your tongue on the ridge just behind your top teeth and let your molars untouch. Shoulders unlock. Shrug up toward your ears for a second and let them drop with a sigh. Breath unlock. Exhale completely, then let the next inhale arrive on its own. 3 seconds each. These unlocks are like opening windows in a stuffy room. Your thoughts smell better almost immediately. Add a story from a kitchen at 6:42 a.m. Dishes in the sink. a child's lunch half-packed, 2 notifications, the weather app blinking rain. Arjun felt the day already pressed against him like a wall. His old pattern was to scroll while the kettle heated and then sprint late. The newer pattern arrived like a friend who knows your front door code. Circuit breaker, 1446 breath, sternum lift, hand to the door frame, new sky. Tiny ramp, prime with the smell of coffee grounds, pin, pack fruit into the lunchbox, push 90 seconds. Done, prime, splash wrists at the sink, pin, write the 1-sentence agenda for the 9 a.m., push 2 minutes. He left the house on time with 1 sentence in his pocket that made the meeting cleaner. The wall hadn't moved. He had found the door. Another sensory beat. Notice a color in your space you hadn't registered yet. Trace a square on your thigh with your finger, slowly. Feel the temperature in your earlobes. These small acts are not frivolous. They are levers that tip you back into the seat that chooses. You'll meet a resistance that masquerades as prudence. If I can't do it properly, I'll wait. This is storm logic. Properly is a mirage. Practice the 1 ugly minute. Pick the task you're avoiding and do it badly for 60 seconds. Write the worst first draft line you can. Sort papers by making 2 piles. Keep and deal later with 0 finesse. Speak a clumsy opening sentence out loud to your empty room. Ugly minute breaks perfection paralysis. It permits your nervous system to move. Often, the minute births a tiny ramp without you noticing. Because your identity follows the trail of repeated actions, you'll memorialize your resets, not with grand tracking, just with a tally mark. Each time you run a circuit breaker or complete a tiny ramp, draw a small vertical line in the corner of your page or flip a coin from one pocket to the other. At the end of the day, glance at the marks. Let your chest warm with a clean feeling. You didn't wait for perfect weather, you navigated. Another framework to stack, the energy triad. When your battery feels low, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "Which tank is empty, body, brains, or belonging?" Body tank needs fuel, water, movement, sleep. Brains tank needs novelty with meaning or clarity of target. Belonging tank needs contact, one honest exchange. Choose the tiniest act from the empty tank. If body, 2 minutes of stretching calves against a wall, or a glass of water, or sun on your face at a window for 30 seconds. If brains, read a paragraph of something you care about and jot 1 sentence. If belonging, send 1 message that says, "Thinking of you, no response needed." The triad keeps you from throwing the wrong fix at the wrong deficit and calling yourself a failure when it doesn't work. Pause and listen. What is the smallest sound present now? The hum of a light, a neighbor's footfall, a bird testing the morning. Let that sound be your belonging for a breath. Even alone, you are in a world with other beating things. A brief anecdote. Sumi worked night shifts at a hospital and studied in the cracks. Her schedule chewed rhythms to bits. On break at 2:10 a.m., she stared at pharmacology notes and thought, not possible. Energy triad check. Body tired but fed, brains starving for clarity. Belonging low. She ran a 2-minute tiny ramp for brains, prime with the scent of alcohol swab. Pin, write 1 question about the topic. Push, 90 seconds. What's the 1 mechanism I keep mixing up? Then a second ramp for belonging. Send a voice note to her study buddy. I'm at the vending machine thinking of your terrible coffee jokes. Static softened. The notes weren't easier. She was resourced enough to meet them. You might worry that these small moves are avoidance in disguise. They are not if you aim them at the smallest wise action and close the loop. That's why you write the next micro start at the end of any ramp. Your reticular activating system uses that specificity to keep the path lit. Vague intentions are fog. Named microstarts are runway lights. Let's add a method for those moments when worry is the real drain, the 2-slot worry window. Your mind will try to worry all day unless you schedule it like a meeting. Choose 2 10-minute slots in your day. When worries arrive outside the window, you jot a 3-word tag on a card: rent, email back, lab results, and tell your brain, we have a meeting. At the window, you set a timer, list the tags, and for each you do one of 2 things: smallest wise action or name the next checkpoint. Call the landlord or write the draft line. If neither is possible, name when you will check again with date and time. Close the window when the timer rings. Over a week, your brain learns the pattern. Worry gets heard, and then the door closes. The storm loses its all-access badge. A story from a bus seat slick with rain. Jun was heading to a final interview. His mind tried to run the catastrophic marathon, what-ifs lined up like spectators. He used the circuit breaker and then unrolled a 2-slot worry card. Most of the tags were actually logistics pretending to be doom. He texted a friend, "I'm on my way, brain is loud, send a 2-line pep talk." The friend replied with a photo of a sunrise and the words, "Breathe. Ask one good question." A belonging tank filled a notch. At the interview, when he felt his throat close, he lifted his sternum and took one long exhale. "New sky," he whispered into his tie. The question he asked was simple and clarifying. He left knowing he had steered his weather, even if the outcome took its time. Another sensory beat. Rub the pad of your thumb across the pad of your index finger. Feel the ridge and whirl of your own skin. You have moved through countless storms. Your fingerprints never left you. Because fatigue often hides in the edges of the day, install the bookend rituals: the first light scan and the last light seal. First light scan is a 1-minute check within 30 minutes of waking, eyes open, sit or stand, 1-4-4-6 breath, whisper the day's keystone slice, set the first tiny ramp. Last light seal is a 90-second closure, write the next micro start for tomorrow's most important plant, add a tally mark for any reset you ran, and speak the identity sentence: I am the awareness, not the emotion. Say it out loud in the dark. Your nervous system sleeps better when it knows someone steady is at the wheel. An objection appears: this is too much structure. Structure is scaffolding, not prison. You will not do every practice every day. You will carry 2 or 3 that fit your life like well-worn shoes. On wild days, the circuit breaker alone may save you from 1,000 small collisions. On focused days, tiny ramps stack into a staircase. On heavy days, the energy triad points to the tank that needs filling. This is not about maximizing you like a machine. This is about treating you like a garden that deserves paths and water. One last rehearsal before we close this chapter. Picture a moment later today where static tends to thicken, post-lunch slump, pre-call jitters, early morning drift. See the room as it is. Hear the sound there, feel your habitual posture. Now run the 60-second circuit breaker. Breath, sternum, place, new sky. Choose a tiny ramp, prime with scent or splash, pin 1 micro action, push for 90 seconds. If a worry knocks, jot it for the window. If a voice says properly or not at all, give it an ugly minute. When the ramp ends, write the next micro start. If you're done for now, stand and look at the farthest point you can see. That's your C. Notice what your chest feels like, lighter by grams, but lighter. Grams add up to kilograms, kilograms change days. You are not lazy, you are not broken. You are a living system that responds to cues. When you learn to flip the right ones in the right order, the weather obeys more than you thought it could. You won't eliminate fatigue, you'll stop letting it be the narrator. You will be the one who says, "New sky," and means it. Feel your breath, feel your feet. Place one hand over your heart and one on your abdomen. Whisper the sentence that anchors all of this. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Say it again, including the static. You are the awareness, not the fatigue. The sky you carry is wide enough for clouds and for light. Today you practice turning toward the light on purpose. There's a storm that matters more than most because it shows up where your heart lives, not in traffic or inboxes, but between you and someone you care about. It begins as a flinch, a text answered too quickly, a joke that lands jagged, a promise stretched thin. The air pressure drops. You feel a mix of heat and cold, like stepping from a party into winter. Your mind drafts verdicts, your body readies exits. This is rupture weather, the moment where connection frays and both sides want to be right more than they want to be whole. Today you'll learn the maps for repairing without performing, for holding your ground without turning it into a battlefield. You'll learn to keep your nervous system steady enough to pick up the right tool instead of the closest weapon. You'll stop waiting for perfect words and start practicing the words that move you from thunder to shelter. Begin with a framework called the Rupture Repair Loop. Think of it like a circular path with 3 gates: recognize, regulate, reach. Recognize is the simple admission a rupture happened. It might be small, it still counts. Regulate is the work you do to cool the inner weather enough to speak from choice. Reach is the moment you extend a bridge, a clean acknowledgement or a question that opens a window. The loop is a practice because rupture is not a one-time exam. It's a recurring trail you learn to hike with fewer falls. When you walk the loop, you don't have to choose between pride and peace. You choose skill. Pause to feel the temperature at the tip of your nose. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, notice your tongue resting heavy and low. On the exhale, feel your shoulders drop a centimeter. Rupture tries to speed you. Repair is built at human tempo. Pair the loop with a second framework, the impact intent clarifier. When storms hit, people argue intent and feel impact. The clarifier is 2 lines you carry into hard moments. Line 1 names impact without prosecution. When X happened, the impact on me was Y. Line 2 separates intent from villainy. I imagine your intent wasn't to harm. Help me understand what you were going for. The order matters. Impact first gives your body dignity. Curiosity about intent gives the other person a ladder out of defensiveness. You are not giving away your power, you are claiming it with precision. A story. On a grey Wednesday with a hint of rain in the air, Nor and her brother were packing their late father's books. He made a joke about her always keeping the light stuff, and it grazed a bruise she hadn't realized was still purple. Heat rose, the air thinned. Old weather would have been a sharp reply and a colder afternoon. Nor ran the rupture repair loop in her head. Recognize, that landed as a jab. Regulate, 3 silent 4-4-6 breaths while she lifted 2 hardcovers to the box. Reach, when you joked about me taking the easy stuff, it landed like you see me as lazy. Impact, not what you meant. Her brother looked at the floorboards. I was trying to tease like Dad used to. It was dumb. She nodded. What were you going for? He said. To keep it light because this hurts. The weather eased from spiky to soft. They carried different boxes after that, and they carried the same loss. Another sensory beat. Notice the weight of your hands. Are they cool or warm? Feel your feet in your shoes, the quiet push of the floor against your heels. Listen for the faintest sound in your space, the way hearing small things widens the room in your chest. There's science beneath this softness. In conflict, your amygdala reads tone and facial micro-movements fast and dirty. blood leaves your prefrontal cortex, and you get the tunnel where all roads lead to self-protection. Regulation, breath, posture of mind, returns blood to planning and language, the places where nuance lives. Naming impact reduces ambiguity. Curiosity recruits social engagement circuits that calm you both. This is not therapy speak for display. It is a set of handles in wet weather. Add a micro practice called the 90-second repair prep. Before you reach, you prep. Step 1, name what your body is doing out loud if you can. My chest is tight, my jaw wants to bite. Step 2, speak the value you serve. I care about us being clean. Step 3, decide a single sentence you will say that begins with impact. The timer is real. You do not let your mind assemble a courtroom. You assemble a doorway, then you step through. An anecdote from an open-plan office where the coffee machine sounded like a small plane. Archero's colleague publicly corrected him in a stand-up, the kind that makes your ears heat. He felt the old script curl, ice over, work late, resent hard. He took a bathroom break and stared at the tile like it could answer him. 90-second repair prep. Heat in ears, jaw tight. I care about clean collaboration. I'll say, when feedback comes in stand-up, I feel exposed. Can we do it one-on-one? He returned, asked for 3 minutes after the meeting, and used the line. The colleague blinked, then said, I was rushing. Yes, one-on-one next time. Tell me if I miss. The weather learned a new route out of winter. Feel the skin between your brows soften. Unclench your toes, even if you didn't realize they were clenched. Let your next exhale be quiet enough that only you can hear it. Quiet is a signal. Your body listens. Sometimes you'll need a gauge before you reach. Use the heat-to-handle ratio. If the heat in your body is 5 degrees higher than the size of the handle you have on your words, you wait and regulate before you try to repair. Heat without handle makes you throw metal instead of building a bridge. Handle catches up when you run a breath. Name your impact on paper or take a 5-minute walk to let adrenaline unhook from your tongue. This is not avoidance, it is timing, where the windows matter. Another story, one of those hallway scenes that decide a week. Margot's manager emailed late at night, need edits by 7 a.m. third time in 2 weeks. The morning after, Margot's stomach was a fist. Heat to handle said she was at 8 degrees of heat and 2 degrees of handle. She took 10 minutes at lunch to regulate with a walk and a note in her phone. Then she scheduled a 15-minute chat. Impact intent clarifier. When edits arrive at midnight for 7 a.m., the impact is I either break rest or break trust. I imagine your intent is to keep momentum. Can we set a boundary that edits arrive before 6, or we push a day? The manager rubbed his temple, the way people do when they realize they've been weather on someone else. You're right, let's fix the cadence. Margot left with a body that felt the dignity it had asked for. Return to your senses. Place a hand over your sternum, one on your belly. Feel which moves first. Let the lower hand laid for the next 2 breaths. Hear something you can't see. The body that can sense is the body that can steer. Repair doesn't always mean apologizing first or at all. Sometimes repair is a boundary that prevents future ruptures. You learn the kind contour earlier. Bring it here, gentle and firm. A clean boundary spoken early is weatherproofing. A boundary after months of storms feels like evacuation. Practice the early one. When the rupture is yours, use a script that respects both truth and belonging. The 3-beat apology that lands. Name the specific behavior, acknowledge the impact, state the adjustment. I interrupted you twice in the meeting. That likely felt dismissive. Next time I'll take notes and wait to be called in. No self-flagellation. No if you felt. No novel-length context. Your prefrontal cortex can manage this when your breath is long and your jaw is loose. Your nervous system trusts you when you are precise. A small scene. Devon snapped at his partner while packing for a trip, words thrown like shoes, the kind you forget until you trip on them later. He felt the guilt damp that makes people clean the kitchen as penance. He chose the loop instead. Recognize, regulate with 3 long exhales and a hand on the doorframe, new sky, reach. I was short. It landed sharp. I was spun about time and took it out on you. Next time I'll say what I'm anxious about and ask for one thing. The apology didn't erase the scuff, but it buffed the flaw. Repair is not about never stepping on toes. It is about learning to look down and offer the hand. Another sensory beat. Smell the air as if there's citrus in it. If there isn't, imagine the pith under a nail, the oil brightening your nose. Imagined sensation works nearly as well. The brain is suggestible in ways that help us heal. You will meet a stubborn squall, rumination after conflict, the replay reel. Here you use the 2-question release. Ask, what is the lesson and what is the release? The lesson is 1 sentence you can practice next time. The release is 1 sentence that sets the past down. Lesson, lead with impact. Release, that scene is over. Say the release more than once, under your breath while you do dishes or walk the block. Repetition is an eraser. The reticular activating system gets tuned by whatever you rehearse. If you rehearse humiliation, it brings you more cues that look like it. If you rehearse repair, it brings you opportunities and phrases. That's why you'll build a repair kit note on your phone, a handful of sentences that are yours. When X, the impact is Y, was your intention Z. I want this to go well for both of us. Can we try again? I hear you. I need 10 minutes. I care about you. I'm not ready to talk yet. The point is availability, not eloquence. Under weather, you grab what you can reach. Another story. Keiko and her teenage son sparred over dishes the way some countries spar over borders. One night, voices lifted, the air crackled, and he slammed his door, a thunderclap. Keiko stood at her sink and felt the swirl, fear, frustration, love, history. 90-second repair prep, body, hands shaking. Value, connection, and respect both directions. Sentence, when the door slammed, I felt scared and shut out. Can we try that again with words? 10 minutes later, she knocked. He opened slowly, eyes rimmed. She used the line. He stared at his socks and said, I was mad. I don't know what to say when I'm mad. She nodded and offered a ladder. Try, I need 5 minutes. They practiced in the hallway like it was a sport. It is. Feel the chair, feel the tiny sway of your body even when you think you're still. Let your jaw unhook. Let your eyes soften. The animals in both of you need this tone to come to the table. Not every repair is available. Some people will choose storm. Your loop then ends at regulate and boundary. You still learn, you still release. The skill remains yours. The dignity remains yours. The weather you control is yours. For moments where you fear being swallowed, use the lighthouse line. It begins with value, names a boundary, and offers a path. I want us to be honest and kind. I won't keep talking while the volume is up. I'm ready to continue when we both can speak at a normal tone. This isn't performance. It's a light for both ships in fog. Add a micro drill called Echo and Ask. During heated conversation, you echo the last meaningful phrase and ask one clarifying question. You felt dismissed. By which part? You need more lead time. What would that look like? Echo keeps the nervous system tethered. Ask gives the prefrontal cortex a job. Your body will want to counterpoint. Train it to anchor instead. A restaurant anecdote. 2 friends, a misunderstanding over money. Serena felt the familiar glaze that precedes flight. She used echo and ask. You felt blindsided by the bill, by the extras. Her friend exhaled hard. By the assumption I could cover it. Serena's throat eased. I want us simple. Next time I'll say what I can do before we order. The storm flickered and then went out like a candle protected by a hand. Check in with your breath. Count a 4-4-6 again. Feel the ribs widen sideways. On the exhale, imagine the air leaving through your back. This imaginary exit often releases muscles you can't reach otherwise. Because identity follows repetition, you'll capture your repairs. At night, in your weather archive, add one line. I walked the loop today when. You will notice that the line is not about perfect outcomes. It's about the person you were in the weather. You will read these lines on a week when everything feels like sandpaper, and remember that you know how to build bridges even with splinters in your fingers. If your mind argues, but what if they don't meet me halfway? You reply with truth. Repair is a move you make for self-respect first, connection second. You are not begging, you are building. Halfway often appears after one person builds the first plank. If not, the plank becomes a path you walk away on with your head up. Practice before we close. Bring to mind a small rupture today or last week. Feel your body's first weather, heat in the face, air going thin. Recognize, name it. Regulate, one breath, one posture shift, one hand on a surface that steadies you. Reach, choose an impact, intent line or a lighthouse line. If you need time, use heat to handle and pick a window. If shame rises, use the gentle mirror you learned earlier. Accountability, affection, adjustment. Then circle back. Speak your sentence out loud now. Hear your voice steady. Imagine the other person's face soften by degrees. If it doesn't, see yourself staying kind and clear anyway. That is the sky you carry. Feel the room, see its edges. Hear a small sound, touch a surface. Whisper the identity line that keeps you from fusing with any storm. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Say it again with your hand on your chest. You are the awareness, not the weather between you and anyone else. The weather matters. You matter more. This is not about winning a scene. It is about living in a climate where love and respect can find you because you've made a place for them to land. Rupture is inevitable. Repair is learnable. You are learning. You are walking loops. You are carrying bridges. And the sky above you remains wide. There's a storm that follows impact, not the impact itself. The email with bad news, the test that came back different than you hoped, the deal that fell apart, but the aftershock. Your brain tries to make the ground solid by drawing conclusions in permanent marker. I'm not cut out for this. Everything is late now. What's the point of trying again? The hours after a setback can set your climate for weeks if you let them. Today you'll learn to handle the aftershock like a trained responder. You'll stabilize the scene, save what's vital, and begin the rebuild before the dust convinces you the city is gone. This is not motivation in a mirror. This is a protocol that keeps you from turning one storm into a season. Begin with the aftershock protocol. It has 3 phases you run in order: stabilize, survey, select. Stabilize is 90 seconds to 5 minutes of pure biology. Breathe, ground, cool. 1-4-4-6 breath, hand on a surface, cold on wrists or the back of the neck. You say out loud, impact happened. Survey is 10 minutes of clear sight, what actually changed, what didn't, which deadlines moved, which relationships need repair, which resources remain. Select is the smallest wise action that preserves momentum or dignity in the next hour. The power of the protocol is time boxing. Aftershock wants to sprawl. You give it walls so you can move. Pause and feel your breath move over your upper lip. Cool in, warm out. Notice the weight of your forearms where they rest. Let your jaw slacken so your molars are not touching. This is stabilize. You are sending blood back from alarm to choice. Pair the protocol with the debrief triangle. Picture a triangle with 3 points: data, decision, direction. Data is the plain description without adjectives. Decision is the choice you made and why, honoring the information you had then. Direction is what you'll do now that you have new information. Most people jumble these and end up in self-indictment disguised as learning. You separate them. Data: we missed the grant by 4 points. Decision: we chose to submit early rather than polish references to avoid a system crash. That was reasonable given last cycle. Direction: block a half-day next round for references and add a second reviewer. Debrief triangles are small roofs you build over your head in rain. A story: in a room that smelled like dry markers and dust, Anna checked the portal for a fellowship she had chased for months. Rejected. The word was flat and heavy. The Aftershock arrived with its leaden toolkit. You're not extraordinary. You wasted time. Everyone else is passing you. She felt heat crawl up her neck and a prickly numbness in her hands. Aftershock protocol. Stabilize. 2 long exhales, palms against the cool window, forehead to the glass, whisper: impact happened. Survey: a 10-minute note in her phone. What changed? What didn't? The rent still due. The project still alive. The timeline tighter. The network intact. Select: she texted a mentor 1 line. Didn't get it. Can I send you the reviewer notes when they post? Then she ran the debrief triangle 2 days later when the sting had cooled. Data, decision, direction. The storm did not become a season. It became a paragraph and a plan. Let your eyes soften so you can see the whole room without moving them. Hear the smallest sound available: the tick of cooling metal, a bird, a distant voice. Imagine your exhale leaving through your shoulder blades. These sensory notes are sandbags. They keep the river in its banks. Behind the scenes, your brain is trying to protect you from future pain by writing global rules after a setback. That's negativity bias plus overgeneralization, ancient code, well-meaning, clumsy. The Aftershock protocol and debrief triangle recruit your prefrontal cortex to write local rules instead. You don't delete feeling. You bracket it so you can learn without burning. Add a second framework: the resilience ledger. Ledgers have 2 columns, assets and liabilities, and 1 line at the bottom that says net. After impact, you list 3 assets you still hold: skills, relationships, health, reputation, savings, time window, audience, and 3 liabilities created by the event: lost time, money, trust, energy. Then you write 1 sentence for each liability that describes exactly how you will pay it down. Lost time: I will recapture 5 hours with 2 focus greenhouse cycles Tuesday and Wednesday. Lower trust: I will deliver 2 early check-ins this week. When you can't pay a liability directly, you draft a recovery window. Energy: 3 nights of 7+ hours, 1 social hour with a friend. The ledger prevents catastrophizing from eating assets you still own. Another scene: Pavel ran a small shop restoring bikes. A supplier botched a shipment and 3 angry emails hit before 10. Old Pavel would pace, rant, and work into the night fixing everything alone. New Pavel pulled the ledger. Assets: loyal locals, his hands, a rainy week with foot traffic slow. Liabilities: parts delay, 3 unhappy customers, dented cash flow. Paydowns: call each customer with a specific timeline and a compensatory service. Post-rain day tune-up special. Negotiate credit with supplier with documentation. He stabilized first, hand flat on the workbench, breath low, the smell of grease reminding his body he was not a spreadsheet. He was a person with tools. By evening, 2 customers had replied with unexpected grace. The storm shifted from personal failure to logistics. Feel the temperature at your earlobes. Feel the press of your calf muscles against fabric when you flex your feet. Let your next exhale be almost silent. Your body reads this as safety. Safety steadies hands. Setbacks invite rumination, and rumination devours hours. Use the micro-closure loop. It's a 3-step move you can run in 5 minutes. Name the wound, name the wisdom, name the waypoint. The wound is the honest line about what hurt. The wisdom is a single sentence about what this teaches without poeticizing pain. The waypoint is the next micro-commitment with a timestamp. Wound, the pitch fell flat and I felt small. Wisdom, I overstuffed the middle and didn't ask a question. Waypoint, 4 p.m., rewrite the middle with 1 question and a 5-bullet structure, then practice out loud for 9 minutes. Micro-closures stop your mind from trying to end the entire story at once. They close pages, not books. Here's the science again, compact. When you create waypoints with time stamps, your reticular activating system flags them as destinations, and the brain's navigational networks hold the path in the background while you rest. That's why you sleep better after writing next micro start at the end of a work block. You gave your animal a trail to find in the morning. Another anecdote. Celeste trained for a marathon and sprained an ankle 3 weeks out. Disaster headlines began drafting themselves. She ran the micro-closure loop on paper. Wound, grief, and frustration. Wisdom, this is a test of identity. Runner isn't just distance, it's devotion. Waypoint, 8 a.m. tomorrow, book PT, swap long runs for pool sessions, scan calendar for 2 cross-training slots. She set the timestamp and put her shoe on the shelf like a promise rather than a tombstone. The weather stayed sad, then turned crisp. Different sky, same horizon. Take a sensory beat. Smell the air as though there's rain on hot pavement. If there isn't, imagine it. Feel the texture of the seat under you, the way it pushes back. Place a hand on your chest and feel the steady thud. You are alive enough to be disappointed because you are alive enough to care. Install a practice called the 24-72 rule. After a meaningful failure or loss, you give yourself 24 hours where your only job is stabilization and care. No life sentences, no global decisions. Walks, water, warm food, a friend's voice, sleep. At hour 25, you run the debrief triangle and the resilience ledger. By 72 hours, you must take 1 public micro-action that signals continuation, a check-in email, a revised plan, a new date, a small ship. This cadence respects biology and prevents drift into identity collapse. You will be tempted to fix it all now. Don't. Brains in Aftershock misprice everything. A short story set under fluorescent lights that make paper look tired. Omar's startup lost a key investor on a Friday. The team stared at a whiteboard like it could throw money. He gathered them for 20 minutes, 24 hours, rest and basics. On Sunday 10 a.m., debrief triangle and ledger. By Monday 5 p.m., each of us sends 1 micro-signal to stakeholders. They did. Monday evening, a former mentor replied to Omar's update, "Let's talk bridge funding." The protocol didn't conjure miracles. It preserved morale and moved pieces on the board. The storm met a city that knew how to drain water. Check your posture. Lift your sternum a centimeter. Let your shoulder blades slide down and wide. Unclench your toes inside your shoes. This is the posture of someone who builds after storms. Setbacks also invite identity conclusions. Your brain loves to tattoo a moment across your whole self. Use the identity sandbox. For 1 week after impact, You treat identity as sand, not stone. You speak in parts, language, and today language. A part of me feels like a failure today. Then you add a values sentence. I value learning and contribution. Today I will practice those in one small way. Imparts language reduces fusion. Values language pulls you toward consistent action. If the phrase feels awkward, that's because the critic prefers gravestones. Sandboxes are for trying again. Another scene, Myra botched an apology and watched her partner's face harden. Identity tried to roar bad at love. Sandbox, a part of me feels clumsy today. I value repair. At 6 p.m., I'll try again with 2 sentences and no excuses. She did, and the second bridge held. Because momentum is medicine, add the future bridge. After a setback, write a note from yourself 2 weeks in the future to yourself now. It contains concrete images, specific actions, and 1 sentence of warmth. I'm writing from the cafe on 3rd where the light hits the wood table. You sent 2 emails and scheduled 1 meeting. The air felt different after. You slept 9 hours one night and the world lost its greenish tint. You're not back. You're here, and that's enough to steer. You read it once in the morning, once before bed. Your nervous system borrows belief from the version of you who has done a few reps. Feel the coolness on the inside of your nostrils as you breathe in. Feel the warm slip of air as you breathe out. Hear a small sound in the room. These anchors let belief land without the need for fireworks. When the setback is social, rejection, exclusion, a door closed, loneliness becomes a force multiplier. Use the 2-thread contact. Thread 1 is easy contact, a meme, a voice note, a photo of something ordinary. Thread 2 is honest contact, a single sentence naming your inner weather. Send one of each to 2 different people in 48 hours. Belonging refills through small pipes reliably, not through rare speeches. Your storm wants isolation, you give it modest company. A brief anecdote. Harper didn't make the shortlist. Her first impulse was to make tea and disappear. She sent her cousin a picture of the tea mug with "Today tastes like overbrewed" and texted a friend, "Part of me feels flat, I'll be okay." 2 replies, both gentle. The room inside her gained 2 degrees of warmth. Function returned faster than her old pattern by days. Your brain also needs visible proof that effort still matters. Bring back your green dots, but apply them to recovery reps. Each dot now marks a stabilization, a debrief, a ledger entry, a micro-action. When you look at a cluster at week's end, you're not congratulating persistence for its own sake. You're training your RAS to associate setbacks with systems, not spirals. Sometimes the failure is moral. You did something out of alignment. Shame wants to make a home then. You use the integrity reset. It's 3 lines: confess, correct, continue. You confess to the right person in a single sentence without decoration. You correct with a specific action sized within 48 hours. You continue by rejoining the work and refusing to make self-punishment your identity. Integrity resets change whether faster than self-contempt ever will. A story. Leo cut a corner on an invoice under pressure. He woke at 3 a.m. with heat in his cheeks. Integrity reset. Confess. I rounded in our favor without note. That's not okay. Correct. I'll send an amended invoice with a note owning it and a discount. Continue. He wrote a checklist for invoicing under fatigue. The client replied with appreciation for the correction. The storm left quickly because the door was opened quickly. Another sensory beat. With 2 fingers, trace the rim of your opposite ear slowly, noticing temperature and texture. Return your hand to rest. Your animal calms when touched gently, even by you. Because some setbacks have grief inside them, build the grief gate. Set aside a 10-minute block within 3 days of impact to feel what you would rather outrun. Sit. 4-4-6 breath. Name what you wanted. Name what didn't happen. Let tears arrive if they arrive. When the timer chimes, close the gate with the 2-question release. What is the lesson? What is the release? Put a hand on your chest. Whisper gate closed, not heart. Grief metabolized doesn't leak into decisions. It makes them cleaner. A scene under sodium streetlights. A band Naomi loved ended a collaboration. She ran busy instead of sad for 2 days, then sat in her car and opened the grief gate. 10 minutes. I wanted one more album together. I wanted the feel of that harmony in my bones again. Tears. Lesson, she loves making things with people who make her braver. Release, that version is over. She texted a musician she admired. Collab sometime. A small yes arrived the next afternoon. The sky did what skies do, changed. Return to your breath. Inhale as if smelling orange peel. Exhale like letting the last air out of a balloon without squeal. Feel your sit bones. Feel the chair hold you like a quiet friend. To keep setbacks from stacking into identity, adopt the 3-day reset. It's a tiny ritual you run after any week that felt like wading through wet cement. Day 1, clear 1 square meter of physical space. Desk, counter, bag 1 meter. Day 2, complete 1 focus greenhouse cycle on a keystone task. Day 3, connect honestly with 1 person for 10 minutes. Physical, meaningful, relational. 3 meters of clean air. Not because minimalism is holiness, but because visible order, completed focus, and contact convince your primitive brain that the world still works and you still work in it. A quick anecdote. Theo's week slid. He ran the reset, cleared his nightstand until the wood looked like wood again. Next day, 1 greenhouse on a single slide deck section. Day 3, called his grandmother walking under sycamores. By Sunday, his mind had stopped narrating doom and had returned to narrating next steps. The weather obeyed the ritual because bodies love patterns more than arguments. When the storm argues, "But you failed, sit down," you answer with the momentum minute. You stand and take 60 seconds to advance 1 move by 1 notch, send a calendar invite, title a document, lay out clothes, set a timer for a stretch, copy reviewer notes into a file. You narrate out loud, momentum minute. Your RAS registers motion. Your identity does too. This is how you become someone who moves again while the sky is still gray. You will not do all of these every time. You will choose what fits the moment and the size of the wave. But here is the secret. Any one of them moves the barometer. Any one of them steals an hour from the storm and returns it to you. Practice now. Bring to mind a setback still echoing in you, recent or from earlier this year. Feel the first weather as you recall it. Heat in the face, cold in the belly, an ache in the jaw. Stabilize for 3 breaths, hand on a surface. Whisper, impact happened. Survey quickly what changed, what didn't. Select 1 smallest wise action in the next 60 minutes and 1 waypoint with a time stamp in the next 72 hours. Run a mini debrief triangle in your head: data, decision, direction. Write a 2-line resilience ledger: 1 asset, 1 liability with a paydown. If grief is in the room, schedule a 10-minute grief gate within 3 days. If shame is peaking, plan an integrity reset. If you feel alone, send a 2-thread contact to 2 people. If your hands want proof, draw 1 green dot somewhere you will see. Breathe. Notice a sound. Notice the temperature where your skin meets air. You just built shelter. The storm preferred you writing epitaphs. You wrote plans. It preferred you sitting in a corner. You stood and took a step the size of your foot. The world you want is built by people who learn to build after rain. Put 1 hand on your sternum and 1 on your abdomen. Feel the lift of breath. Say softly the line that keeps the sky from collapsing into you. You are the awareness, not the emotion and not the event. Say it again with the setback's name in your mind. You are the awareness, not this rejection, not this misstep, not this loss. You are the sky that learns. The forecast will always include rain. Your life will include roofs, windows, green things growing, and you, looking out with steady eyes, choosing the next smallest wise action. There's a storm that shows up at crossroads. It crackles not because a lion is chasing you, but because 2 or 3 good paths pull at your sleeve. Your jaw tightens, your breath goes thin. You pace a loop between tabs, calendars, the face of someone you love. One voice says, be bold. Another says, be safe. A third says, wait until you're sure, and certainty refuses to answer the door. Days pass. The weather doesn't rage, it stalls. Today you will learn the art of choosing when the forecast is mixed. You'll build self-trust not by predicting perfectly, but by deciding cleanly and carrying your decisions well. You will stop outsourcing your life to hesitation. Begin with a framework called the Choice Cascade. Think of it as a river with 3 steps: clarify, commit, carry. Clarify means you distill a tangled decision into one sentence that names the actual trade. I am choosing between X, which gives me A, B, and Y, which gives me C, D. You write it. You say it out loud. Commit is the moment you set a threshold for action and agree to meet it. Carry is the practice of walking your choice in public and in private without relitigating it every hour. Many lives collapse because people try to do all 3 at once or never truly do any. Clarify brings light. Commit sets the boat in the current. Carry keeps you from swimming back upstream every time a wave argues. Pause and feel your breath move in through your nose, cooler than the air that leaves. Let your jaw soften until your molars part by a hair. Lift your sternum 1 inch. This is the posture of a person about to be deliberate. To make clarify precise, use the values variable scan. You list your top 2 values relevant to this decision, say growth and steadiness or creativity and belonging. Then you list the variables that actually move those values: time, money, energy, health, proximity, learning. You score each option lightly from 2 to +2 for how it serves those values across the variables. You do it messy on paper. The scan isn't a spreadsheet for perfection. It's a lens that shows where your bias is loud. When you see that option A lights up growth but costs belonging, you stop arguing with a phantom and start designing a carry that protects what's at risk. Pair the Cascade with a second framework called the 3-door decision. Door 1 is the reversible door, a choice you can change with low cost after testing. Door 2 is the adjustable door. You can change it, but it takes effort or time. Door 3 is the one-way door. You make it rarely and with reverence. Most stalled storms treat every choice like door 3. Your nervous system conserves energy and refuses. Labeling the door calms you. For door 1 decisions, commit with a short test window and tiny stakes. For door 2, commit with a clear review date and a pre-agreed adjustment. For door 3, recruit counsel and ritual. You slow down on purpose and then you move. Here's a story you already know in your bones. Kira sat with 2 offers, a startup with a humming, messy floor and a larger firm with a clean staircase. Clarify, I am choosing between velocity with volatility and stability with mentorship. Values, variable scan, growth and health. Startup scored +2 growth, 1 health risk. Firm scored +1 growth, +1 health. 3-door label, adjustable door, jobs change with effort and time, but not in a day. Kira set a commitment threshold using another tool you'll adopt now, the 60-30-10 rule. If she could reach 60% clarity from data and counsel, accept that 30% would remain uncertainty, and leave 10% as serendipity she would only recognize in motion, she would move. She took a walk, called a mentor, took 3-4-4-6 breaths, and chose the firm with a 6-month experiment. Ask for one stretch project per quarter. Carrie meant she stopped late-night browsing of startup listings and poured that energy into building internal allies. 6 months later, the weather inside her was confident, not because she chose right, but because she carried her choice like someone who meant it. Feel the temperature at your earlobes. Notice the weight of your hands where they rest. Let your next exhale be warm and thin. Decisions don't require a roar, they require a steady exhale. Science break, actionable and short. Ambiguity elevates cortisol and narrows attention. Your brain loves closure, it hates limbo. When you create a commitment threshold ahead of time, if I find 3 reliable signals of fit, I will proceed. You offload strain from limbic circuits to prefrontal ones. In motion, your reticular activating system starts filtering for evidence that supports carrying well rather than evidence that fuels buyer's remorse. You prime your own OS for follow-through. Add a micro-practice called the 5% braver move. Big choices feel like cliffs. Often, you only need to step 5% closer to the edge to see truth. Identify one action that's 5% braver than your stall but far from reckless. Email the person doing the job you want with one question. Test your craft in public once. Shadow a meeting. State your rate out loud. Ask your partner for a clear conversation. Do it within 48 hours. The point is not to leap. It's to collect data your anxiety can't simulate. Anxiety is a novelist. Data is daylight. A second story. Matteo considered ending a tired consulting contract to focus on a product idea that woke him at 3 a.m. with a grin and a gulp. Door label. Adjustable money and reputation could recover with work, but bills exist. He ran the 5% braver move, called 3 past clients to ask if they would pre-buy the tool at a discount for access and feedback. 2 yeses, 1 maybe later. He set a commitment threshold. If he pre-sold 5 within 2 weeks, he would reduce consulting to 2 days a week. He hit 4. He decided anyway because another method weighed in, the regret window. He pictured himself at 70, looking back, asking which regret would be easier to carry, the discomfort of a lean quarter or the ache of never trying. He whispered, new sky, closed 2 calendars, opened 1. Another sensory beat. Rub the pad of your thumb across the pad of your index finger. Feel the whirl, the slight tack of sweat. Your body learns that clarity lives in texture, not in perfect forecasts. What if your stall isn't between options but between you and action? Use the anti-overwhelm funnel. You pour the whole noisy to-do list into 3 increasingly narrow mouths: scope, sequence, single. Scope is the smallest version of done that still matters. Sequence is the exact order. Single is the 1 micro start now. Overwhelm likes to keep everything the same size and shout. The funnel makes different sizes visible. Scope, prototype, not polish. Sequence, outline, first block, feedback. Single, write the first ugly paragraph in a focus greenhouse cycle. Funnels move storms. Layer in a decision habit called the 131 brief. When you need input from others, you don't hand them your fog. You bring 1 recommendation, 3 reasons, and 1 risk you see. You ask for critique on the reasons and mitigation for the risk. This respects others' time and trains your own mind to structure uncertainty. The brief becomes a mirror. You often hear your answer as you read it aloud. Pause, hear the faintest sound in your space, a hum, a bird, a footfall outside your door. Let your attention widen to include it. Attention widened makes better choices. Sometimes indecision hides under perfectionism. You stall because you've turned choice into performance. Here you use the threshold test. You define what good enough to ship looks like before you begin, 3 criteria, each observable. Then you ship when 2 of 3 are green. You don't move goalposts in the heat of doubt. This isn't laziness. It's honoring the fact that your limbic system inflates criteria under stress like a life raft that blocks the view. A story from a kitchen table with coffee rings. Janelle needed to decide whether to submit a piece to a publication that terrified and thrilled her. Threshold test. Publish if the draft had 1 fresh angle, 2 clean examples, and 1 paragraph that made her feel. After 2 cycles in the focus greenhouse, she had all 3. She wanted to add 5 more citations to win a debate that might never happen. She pictured her inner editor checking a watch on the bench and heard her coach whisper, "Threshold met." "Ship," she sent. 2 weeks later, an acceptance email landed at 6:12 a.m. She cried into her toast and laughed because the toast was already buttered. She had made a life where the weather inside could be sunny at breakfast. Feel your breath drop into your belly like a small stone into a pond. On the exhale, imagine ripples moving out to the edges of your ribcage. This is how you carry yourself after choosing soft power. What about choices that involve others, partners, teams, families? Use the overlap map. Draw 2 circles, yours and theirs. In each, write non-negotiables and wishes. In the overlap, write shared values and constraints. Decisions live in that almond-shaped middle. If there's no overlap, name it early and kindly. If there is, pick a tiny experiment that honors the middle. Experiments lower temperature and increase data. We'll try shared finances for 3 bills for 90 days. We'll pilot work from home on Tuesdays and measure output. Overlap keeps you from arguing values in the abstract while living misaligned in the concrete. Science again, brief. Commitment contracts, where you announce a choice and a review date, activate accountability networks in your brain and social circuits that sustain follow-through. Your RAS begins to notice progress signals and social support rather than threats. This is why telling one trusted person your decision and your first micro-action changes how the choice feels in your body. Install the decision doorway ritual. Before a call, a meeting, a send button, you touch a doorframe or the edge of your desk and whisper, "Choose and carry." You take a 4-4-6 breath. You remember the door label you assigned. You recall the threshold test. If you're at or above threshold, you act. Post-action, you write the review date in your calendar and the first check metric. You have made a small temple out of wood and breath. A scene in a hallway that smells like toner. Deshawn needed to decline a project that would impress his parents but derail his health. Overlap map with his partner showed belonging and rest as shared values, prestige as a wish. Door label, adjustable with reputational cost. Threshold test, say no if he could line up 2 equivalent opportunities aligned with health. He had 1. He touched the doorframe, choose and carry. He said, "No, thank you," then emailed 2 people about the aligned work. The sting lasted hours. The relief lasted months. Carrying taught his nervous system that temporary discomfort is the price of living inside your values. Another sensory beat. Press your feet into the floor until your quads wake, then release. Feel the echo of activation. Choices feel better when the body is involved. Indecision sometimes masquerades as research. You are not learning, you are delaying. Use the 2-source rule. For door 1 and door 2 choices, you limit yourself to 2 high-quality sources or mentors. You ask them the 131 brief. You write what you hear. Then you stop collecting and start committing. Volume of input beyond 2 raises anxiety without improving accuracy. Your brain wants certainty and snacks. You give it clarity and a meal. Add the small bet ledger. Each week, you place one small bet aligned with your horizon, a prototype posted, a coffee with someone in the field, a pitch sent, a new boundary spoken. You log the bet, the date, the lesson, the next bet. 10 weeks of small bets outperforms 2 years of whiteboard debate. Your identity shifts from someone who thinks about it to someone who tests. Tests are weatherproof. A story with a bookshelf and a nervous laugh. Priyanka dreamed of a podcast on honest work. She treated it like door 3, one-shot perfect or nothing. She reframed with the 3-door decision. This was door 1, reversible. Small bet ledger, record a 5-minute pilot and send it to 3 friends. She did. 2 said the same thing. Your questions at minute 3 lit up. She placed bet 2, record 3 5-minute pilots that start at the question. The storm called, "Who do you think you are?" Lost volume when it met a ledger with ink on it. Feel a breeze across your cheeks, imagined or real. Hear the room as if it were larger by 2 feet in every direction. You are giving yourself room to move. There's a deeper move beneath all of this, the self-trust contract. It has 2 clauses. Clause 1, when I make a choice using my frameworks, choice cascade, values, variable scan, 3-door label, threshold test, I will not punish myself if the outcome is imperfect. Clause 2, I will review on the date I set, adjust with data, and honor the person who chose with the information available. You sign it somewhere private. Self-trust grows when the decider and the reviewer are on the same team. Many people decide with courage and then bully themselves with hindsight. That's not intelligence, that's cruelty. Your climate changes when your inner board behaves. If fear remains sticky, you'll use the threat to task reframe. Write the fear sentence. If I choose this, I'll ruin everything. Translate the threat into a task. If I choose this, I'll need a cash buffer of 2 months. Task, save X by date Y. Fear points at a real need more often than a real doom. When you give the need a task, fear softens into ally. A quick anecdote. Sung Min wanted to move closer to his aging parents. The fear sentence was, I'll torch my career. Threat to task, I'll need to stay plugged into the industry. Task, join a local guild and present once this quarter. He moved. The guild invited him to guest host. Torch turned into torchlight. Check your breath again. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel your hands. On the exhale, let your shoulders drop. Your body's yes will often arrive as a softening, not a trumpet. For choices already made that you keep retrying in your head, practice the carry clean ritual. It's 3 sentences you say daily for 7 days. I chose X on date for reasons. I will review on date. Until then, I pour my full attention into carrying. When doubt knocks, I'll give it a 90-second watch and return to the smallest wise action. You can write it on a card. You can say it at a window. You are teaching your Ras what to look for. Evidence of carry, not evidence for court. Because decisions are embodied, end with the compass walk. Step 1, pick a value word for this decision: courage, steadiness, craft, love. Step 2, walk 10 slow steps, repeating the word on the exhale, looking at the far distance at least once. Step 3, on step 10, speak 1 line from your coach, choose and carry. Then sit and act, walking wires intention into muscle. Muscle remembers when your mind gets noisy. Let's rehearse before we close. Bring to mind a decision you've been swirling around. Career move, boundary, creative leap, a talk you need to have. Clarify it into 1 sentence that names the trade. Values, variable, scan it quickly, messy on an imagined page. Label the door. Set a commitment threshold you can meet in days, not months. Pick a 5% braver move and put a timestamp on it within 48 hours. Name your threshold test with 3 criteria and agree to ship at 2 of 3. Draft a 131 brief for counsel if needed. Touch a surface, doorframe, table edge, and whisper, choose and carry. Take 1-4-4-6 breath and notice the smallest sound in the room. Act, even if the act is to schedule the act. Then write your review date and the first metric. If fear speaks, convert it to a task. If doubt lingers, run, carry, clean for 7 days. As you do, remember the line that threads every chapter you've walked with me. You are the awareness, not the emotion. In decisions, add this: you are the decider, not the weather report. Forecasts matter, they are not sovereign. You will sometimes choose and meet rain. You will carry a coat. You will sometimes choose and meet sun you wouldn't have believed if someone told you. You will carry gratitude without telling yourself it was luck. Either way, you will be someone you trust more this month than you did last. Feel the chair, feel your feet. Hear the smallest sound again. The storm at crossroads thrives on hesitation. You are learning to step, not recklessly, not theatrically, cleanly. And once you step, you keep walking until the review date you chose, because you have a contract with yourself and you intend to live in a climate where that contract is honored. You are the sky that chooses what to light. Today, you lit a path. There's a storm that doesn't look like weather at all because it wears your calendar like a costume. It arrives as a busy week, as after this quarter, as when things calm down. Days pass with respectable motion and suspiciously little movement. You keep promises to everyone except the future you that keeps tapping the glass. You don't feel panicked, you feel postponed. This is the drift front, the slow current that carries good intentions out to sea. Today you'll learn to anchor identity in time, not in wishes. You'll stop waiting for later to deliver you and start weaving who you're becoming into the minutes you actually live. You'll shape your days like a carpenter who knows grain from glue. Begin with a framework called the Runway, Altitude, Horizon model. Every life has 3 layers of time you must fly through on purpose. Runway is the next 60 minutes to 24 hours, the ground where wheels roll. Altitude is the next 1 to 12 weeks, the air where momentum builds. Horizon is 6 to 24 months, the line you steer toward. Drift happens when you plan only at horizon and live only at runway. The model asks you to land 1 action at each layer daily, even if tiny. Runway, 1 smallest wise action. Altitude, 1 step that moves a weekly keystone. Horizon, 1 signal to your future, an email sent, a booking, a small bet. The map keeps your attention from being captured by urgent gusts while your deeper direction stalls. Pause, feel the temperature of the air at your nostrils, cool in, warm out. Notice the weight of your forearms where they rest. Let your jaw soften so your molars part a hair. Lift your sternum a notch. This posture doesn't perform discipline, it gives your lungs room to prove it. Pair the model with a second framework, friction sculpting. You will not out-argue drift, you will out-design it. Friction sculpting has 2 moves: grease the good, grit the ghosts. Grease the good means you reduce steps between you and the acts that build you. Put the notebook open to a fresh page, pen uncapped. Put shoes by the door with laces looped wide. Keep the study tab preloaded, the file named Start Here, MD. Grit the ghosts means you add tiny hurdles to the behaviors that siphon you. Log out by default, phone across the room, snacks outside your line of sight, social apps on a folder 2 swipes deep named Later. You're not policing, you're carving the riverbed so water flows where you want it to flow. A story. On the first chilly morning of fall, Eileen stared at a manuscript that had lived in a folder called Someday for 2 years. Her days were honorable and always spoken for kids, client calls, laundry that multiplied like rabbits. Drift was kind and therefore dangerous. She ran Runway altitude, horizon on an index card. Runway. Write one paragraph before 8 a.m. altitude. Ship one chapter to a friend by Friday. Horizon. Book a quiet weekend in December for a full pass. Then she sculpted Friction. Grease the good. Laptop on the table, dock open to ugly start here, mug set out the night before. Grit the ghosts. Phone in the hallway on a dim shelf, not the bedside. The first morning she wrote a paragraph that looked like a pile of sticks. Day 4, the sticks shaped a nest. Day 11, a bird landed. The world did not applaud. Her body did. Take a sensory beat. Feel the skin on your cheeks where the room's air touches. Hear the faintest sound you can, an appliance hum, a bird, a neighbor's door. Rub your thumb across the pad of your index finger, tracing your own whirl. Your system learns that time can be touched and shaped, not only watched. Behind the scenes, you're teaching your reticular activating system to prioritize cues of continuity over novelty. When you perform a tiny act that belongs to your horizon every day, your RAS flags that identity as important and brings you matching opportunities. This is not magic. It is attention obeying instruction. Brains repeat what feels available. You are making future you available by giving them daily airtime. Install a micro-practice called the 2-minute North Star. Each morning or evening, speak one sentence that links your runway to your horizon. I write one paragraph today because I'm building a voice that feeds people in a year. I study 40 minutes today because I'm building a mind that serves patients next summer. You speak it out loud. The sentence is a bridge your attention can walk across when drift waves it over to shore. Another story. Jamal worked in customer support while learning data skills at night. His drift wore the face of fatigue and the voice of tomorrow. He started the 2-minute North Star and added a move called the anchor alarm. At 8:20 p.m., his watch buzzed with a title, not a tone, Runway for Horizon. That phrase was enough to tip him into one focus greenhouse cycle 4 nights a week. He greased the good by exporting the next lesson before he left for work and gritted ghosts by moving his game controller into a high cupboard. In 6 months, he didn't become a new person. He honored the one he'd been trying to become since he first opened a spreadsheet and felt his brain light. Offers followed, effort the way sunrise follows night, surprising only if you forget the planet's rules. Return to your body. Place a palm on your sternum and a palm on your lower belly. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel your top hand lift, proof of breath. On the exhale, let your shoulders slide down as if dust was settling on a shelf. Drift loves collapse posture. You are choosing pilot posture. There is a friendly cousin to friction sculpting called cue stacking. You choose a daily act you already do, coffee, teeth, lights off, and stack one identity act before or after it. After I grind beans, I write 2 ugly sentences. After I brush at night, I lay out clothes for the walk. When I switch off my desk lamp, I record a 30-second weather report. The stack is tiny because tiny sticks. Your RAS will begin to link the cue to the identity without you nagging yourself. In weeks, the stack will pull you when motivation forgets your address. Add the weekly altitude review, a 10-minute ritual with 3 questions that you answer without drama. What moved? What mattered? What's next? Use your debrief triangle here. Data, decision, direction. Then pick one altitude keystone for the coming week and write the smallest 2 runway actions for Monday. Drift hates specificity. You will feed it names and times until it calms. Pause, listen for a small sound at the edge of hearing. Feel the texture of the surface under your palm, wood grain, plastic smooth, fabric weave. See 3 shades of one color in your space. Sensory detail is the oil in your time gears. You might protest, but my days are not my own. That's often true. The model still fits. You just honor smaller runways. When your life is crowded, your unit of progress shrinks to dignity-sized. 3 true minutes, not grand gestures. A paragraph written in a parked car before pickup. A boundary sentence practiced in the mirror while water heats. A request drafted on a bus. Do not sneer at scraps. Quilts are made from them. Another anecdote. Ria took care of her mother and worked nights at a clinic. She carried her camera everywhere and thought of photography out loud to herself like a dream you don't want to wake from. Her drift called itself duty. She ran runway, altitude, horizon with ferocious kindness. Runway, 1 photograph a day, even with a phone, even of shadows under a chair. Altitude, choose a theme each month, hands, thresholds, windows. Horizon, apply to a tiny gallery show in 9 months. She greased the good by putting a small album app on her home screen labeled Light. She gritted ghosts by silencing non-essential notifications when her camera app opened. 9 months later, the tiny gallery said yes to 13 prints that smelled like laundromat soap and evening. She cried in the stairwell and told the wall, "We did it." The wall said nothing, her body said everything. Let your jaw loosen by a gram. Slide your lower teeth slightly away from the upper and leave them there. Feel the back of your tongue widen like a hammock. Decisions about days are easier when your throat isn't a bottleneck. Introduce a companion protocol, identity receipts. You collect proof of becoming the way people collect receipts for taxes. Each day, capture 1 small artifact that says, "I lived my horizon." A sentence screenshot, a photo of sweaty shoes, a sent email with a time stamp, a note from your repair kit used well. At week's end, scan the receipts. Your brain stops asking if you are the kind of person and starts recognizing that you do what that kind of person does. Identity follows verb, not adjective. Install the micro-season map. Humans aren't machines. We run in seasons whether we notice or not. Every 8 to 12 weeks, name your micro-season with 3 words. Build, quiet, restore, or ship, soften, learn. Adjust your altitude accordingly. In build season, you accept fewer social events. In restore season, you protect sleep like a rare bird. Naming seasons prevents drift from weaponizing guilt when your energy changes. The sky doesn't apologize for winter. Sensory beat. Hear the room grow larger by an inch as your attention widens. Feel the cool ring at each nostril on the inhale. Feel warmth lave on the exhale. Your animal will follow you when it trusts you won't sprint it to exhaustion every time you get inspired. Because drift often hides in reasonable tasks, you'll use the compass cut. Once a day, you place your to-do list against your values and slice off 1 respectable task that belongs to someone else's horizon. You send a warm no with the kind contour, affirmation, information, invitation. You free 30 minutes for the thing that scares you and therefore actually grows you. You will think the sky will fall. It will not. It will clear. A scene in an office that smelled faintly of printer ink and the banana someone forgot. The same Nor who packed books with her brother noticed that every afternoon her calendar dissolved into other people's quick asks. She set a runway gate, 2-3 p.m. daily, horizon work only. She posted a note, heads down on roadmap 2-3, ping before if urgent. The first week, drift sulked. The second, it learned the new fence. The third, nor shipped a feature spec that had lived in a notebook margin for months. Her nervous system took notice. When I defend small squares of time, the map changes. Return to breath. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel your hands, warm or cool. On the exhale, let your shoulders drop a centimeter. This becomes the sound your day makes when you claim it. You'll meet the ghost of someday I'll be consistent. Consistency is a story told in missed days and return days, not in never-missed streaks. Use the break and repair rule. When a streak breaks, you name the break without drama and you restart with half dose the next day. Half dose is crucial. It sneaks under resistance. Over time, your identity becomes I return instead of I never miss. People who return cross finish lines, people who never miss never reach, because life, being life, throws Tuesday. Science short and friendly. Habits wire through context-dependent repetition. Your brain tags places, times, and states with cues. Friction sculpting and cue stacking modify context. The runway action is the repetition. The identity sentence is the meaning. When all three align, habit becomes less willpower, more gravity. You are slowly tilting the earth in your favor. Another story, small and exact. Marco wanted to practice guitar daily, but drift wore the face of dishes and one more email. He moved the guitar stand into the walkway and stacked it after dinner. Plate down, 2 minutes of chords, then sync. He put a green dot on a post-it each night. When he missed, he put a diagonal slash through the dot and wrote return. 2 months later, no one applauded. His fingers did calluses like little shields. He strummed before a hard phone call and found his breath had learned a rhythm. Add the when the day tilts protocol. When a day goes sideways, sick kid, system outage, your own sadness, you keep the climate stable with 3 things only: 1 runway action aligned to horizon, 1 connection that fills the belonging tank, 1 act that respects your body. You declare the day salvaged. Drift cannot argue with salvage. It only thrives when you call the day ruined and hand it the keys. A late afternoon scene. Storm clouds on the actual horizon and inside too. You've lost an hour to something you didn't plan. Old weather whispers, start over tomorrow. You put your palm to a door frame and whisper, new sky. Runway, 5 minutes on the keystone. Belonging, text a friend, 1 true line. Body, step outside and let your eyes take in distance for 10 breaths. Salvaged. You go to bed a person who keeps the climate, not a person whose climate keeps them. Sensory beat. Place 2 fingers on the back of your neck where short hairs meet skin. Notice warmth. Release your hand. Hear a small sound, maybe your own breath. Drift loses leverage when you can feel the edges of your own house. Because your days include other humans, build the family friends sync as a weekly 10-minute rendezvous. You share each person's horizon signal for the week and the 2 runway blocks they need protected. You negotiate with good humor. The sync turns ghosts into calendars, resentment into coordination. Drift hates voiced needs. It thrives in assumptions. Introduce the 1 sacred hour experiment. For 1 month, you claim 1 hour a week that is horizon time with ritual around it. Same day, same place, same cue. You begin with the arrival sequence, anchor, aim, act. You end with the closing ritual and write, next micro start. Treat this like you would treat a medical appointment for someone you love. Someone you love is you. A final story for this chapter. Kari had a half-built app she believed could help freelancers invoice without wanting to throw their laptops through a window. Years of stalled starts created a climate of private doubt. She named a micro-season, ship, quiet, kind. She adopted one sacred hour on Sunday mornings at the library where the air tasted like paper. Anchor, 446 breath. Aim, for 60, I wire the settings page. Act, 90-second focus lock. Closing ritual, next micro start, error states. She greased the good by asking the librarian to hold a study room at 9 and gritted ghosts by blocking cell data in the building. 4 Sundays became 8. On the 9th, a beta link went to 5 friends. On the 10th, 2 strangers used it and got paid faster. The sky inside her changed color with no parade, just a quiet that felt like truth. Breathe as if smelling orange peel. Exhale like fog leaving a window. Lift your gaze to the farthest point in your room. The farther you can see, the easier it is to steer. Before we close, build your drift shield for the next 7 days. Name your horizon in 1 sentence. Pick 1 altitude keystone. Write 2 runway actions you can complete in 5 minutes each day. Sculpt 1 piece of friction, grease 1 good, grit 1 ghost. Choose 1 Q stack. Pick your sacred hour if you can. Write your 2-minute North Star line. Tape it where your eyes land in the morning. Decide now how you will repair when you miss. Half dose, then return. Tell 1 person who cares about you what you're building and which 2 windows you'll protect. They don't have to hold you accountable. Their knowing lets your RAS light up when they ask, "How did your hour go?" Place your hand over your heart, feel the thud. Say softly, "I am the awareness, not the emotion." Add the day, "I am the awareness, not the drift." Say it again with your name in the sentence if you want to hear how it sounds when you claim your life. Feel your feet. Notice a quiet sound. Taste the aftertaste of your own breath. This is how identity settles, not in speeches, but in minutes you make yours. The forecast will keep trying to sell you someday. You will keep buying today in small, non-refundable increments. You will stack them like bricks, and one morning you'll look around and realize you live inside a house you built with patient hands. Weatherproof? No, weather-ready, which is better because you get to hear the rain on your roof and still sleep. The last storm is the one inside the mirror, the one that whispers that change only counts when it's dramatic, that your life must pivot in a single scene with swelling strings. It's a glamorous, hungry weather system. It keeps you chasing crescendos and missing the quiet architecture of days that add up. Today we build the climate you live in next, not by discovering a new secret, but by arranging what you already know so it runs on rails. You'll install 2 final frameworks to stitch everything together, create a ritual that makes your body remember, and choose a vow that turns practice into identity. When the credits roll, the work won't end. It will continue without theatrics, like lungs doing what lungs do. Your job is to keep giving them air. Begin with a framework called the Sky Loop. It braids the tools you've learned into a single lap you can run in 2 to 5 minutes anytime, anywhere. It moves in 4 arcs: read, regulate, reframe, respond. Read is your inner barometer, sensation, story as thought, signal. Regulate is your 446 breath or temperature cue and posture lift. Reframe is your choice of ladder or perspective shift, emotional alchemy or street, balcony, lighthouse. Respond is the smallest wise action, and when needed, the kind contour or impact, intent clarifier. 1 loop, 4 arcs. Repeat as many laps as the moment requires. The loop is not a performance, it is plumbing. It keeps the house livable. Pause and feel the air on your cheeks. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. On the hold, feel your hands where they rest, warm or cool. On the exhale, let your jaw loosen by a gram, molars not touching. That soundless exhale is you moving from read to regulate. Quiet is a decision. Pair the sky loop with a second framework, the climate calendar. A calendar is where weather becomes climate, where isolated storms turn into seasons you can shape. The climate calendar runs on 3 check-ins that take less time than a scroll: morning forecast, midday course correct, nightly archive. Morning forecast is one sentence that names your value for the day and the one smallest wise action that embodies it. Value, clarity, action. One clean question in the 11 a.m. midday course correct is a 60-second circuit breaker and a single sky loop lap at your desk, kitchen, or bus stop. Breath, posture, one reframe, one response. Nightly archive is the day's weather report plus the identity line. 3 sentences, then I am the awareness, not the emotion. When you do this for a week, you don't just feel different. Your reticular activating system has marching orders. It starts letting in signals that match your identity and closing the rope on signals that sell you storms. Another breath, slow and thin. Notice the cool at the rims of your nostrils on the inhale, the slight warmth that leaves. Feel your sternum lift 1 quiet inch, as if someone called your name gently from a doorway. These are the tiny hinges large doors swing on. A story, ordinary and decisive. Marisol manages a small cafe and cares for her uncle. Her mornings used to start with frantic lists and late apologies. She installed the climate calendar. Morning, value, steadiness, action, schedule the afternoon inventory before opening. Midday, after a rush that turned her fingers to birds, she ran 1 sky loop lap, barometer buzzing hands. I'm having the thought we're behind, urge to snap, breath 446 balcony, we've survived worse Mondays, respond ask one teammate to prep syrups while she cashes out. Night, weather report, midday squall looped once asked cleanly, then the identity line. 3 weeks later the cafe was not quieter. She was, her uncle noticed first. You sound like you're already breathing when you call, he said. That is climate. Sensory beat. Feel the weight where your body meets the chair. If you're standing, feel your heels push lightly into the floor. Hear a sound you were ignoring, air moving through a vent, a neighbor's laugh, your own breath. Attention widened is control reclaimed. Beneath these moves is a final piece of science you can use without memorizing a diagram. Hebbian learning, neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you complete the sky loop and record in the climate calendar, you fire a pattern that includes sensation, naming, breath, reframe, action, and identity. You are not reciting a mantra at the storm. You are rewiring your default. The loop and the calendar are your daily reps. Identity is the muscle that forms. Install a micro-practice called the 2-moment seal. You choose 2 predictable thresholds in your day, a literal door, a commute step, the lamp switch at night. At the first threshold you whisper, new sky, touch a surface, and run a 15-second version of the loop. Sensation, 1 breath, 1 sentence from your coach, 1 smallest wise action. At the second threshold, you seal the day with the identity line and 1 gratitude in shadow, a thank you for something hard that trained you. 2 moments, 15 seconds each. Seals keep good weather from laking. A short scene. Rohan's first threshold is the office door, his second is the apartment light. Morning, hand to door, new sky. Sensation, tight jaw, breath, coach, slow first sentence. Action, write the 1 question on a sticky note. Night, hand to lamp, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Gratitude in shadow, thank you delayed delivery for teaching me to ask for a time. His partner asked why he seemed taller. He laughed, he wasn't taller, he was sealed. Return to your breath. Inhale through your nose as if smelling rain on hot pavement. Hold just long enough to feel your ribs widen sideways. Exhale like warm fog. Feel your tongue resting on the floor of your mouth. This is how you tell your body you are home. Because endings tend to stir old broadcasts, give the mind a ritual it can trust. The observer's seat. Pick a literal chair or spot, corner of a couch, a particular step, a bench outside. It's where you go for 90 seconds when you feel hijack, shame, or indecision swell. You sit and narrate 3 lines in present tense. Sensation, heat in chest, hands buzzing. Thought, I'm having the thought this will go badly. Value, I choose courage. Then you run 1 lap of the sky loop and stand. Over weeks, the mere sight of the seat will cue calm. You are training place-dependent regulation on purpose. An anecdote. Dana kept the observer's seat at the edge of a stairwell with a skylight that smelled faintly of dust and sun. Before hard calls, she sat, ran her 3 lines, looped once, then walked back down the hallway with a voice an octave lower from loosened jaw. You sound different, a colleague said. I'm sitting somewhere else inside myself, she replied, and it was true. Sensory beat. Place your hand on a surface near you. Feel its temperature and texture. Wood grain, plastic smooth, metal cool. The world is touchable. That matters because storms argue that everything is abstract and spinning. Texture heals abstraction. Now the final method, the legacy compass. Legacy here doesn't mean grand monuments. It means the climate you want your presence to leave in rooms and relationships. The compass has 4 headings: warmth, clarity, courage, clean boundaries. Once a week you pick one heading as your north for the next 7 days. You carry it into conversations, greenhouse cycles, boundaries, and repairs. You measure with questions your body can answer. Warmth. Did faces ease when I spoke? Clarity. Did my words shorten the time between confusion and action? Courage. Did I take 5% braver step? Clean boundaries. Did my no respect both of us? Aligning to a heading dissolves the need for perfect tactics. The tools you've learned become instruments on the console, but the compass is what tells you where to point the plane. A story that tastes like coffee. Matteo, yes, the one who cut consulting days, chose clarity for a week. He wrote it at the top of his climate calendar each morning. In a tense client call, he ran the sky loop and asked a single lighthouse sentence. I care about outcomes. What would success look like in 1 line? The room exhaled. His week felt different not because the world softened, but because his heading simplified his moves. Legacy is built 1 heading at a time. Another breath. Hear a quiet sound in your space. Let your gaze soften until you see the whole wall, not the picture on it. Your animal trusts you more when you stop staring like prey. Because humans forget, build the Sunday sky. A 10-minute appointment with yourself where you walk your climate calendar for the week and choose 1 legacy heading. You grease 1 good and grit 1 ghost. You write your sacred hour if you can, your altitude keystone, your 2 runway actions for Monday. Then you write 1 sentence to your future self dated 7 days ahead. I'm writing from the end of the week. Here's the proof you carried well. Put it where your eyes land. The Sunday sky tells your brain 6 times, I drive the weather here. A closing scene, you standing at a window or in a doorway, the place in your house where light makes a stripe on the floor. You feel the old urge to sprint or to disappear. Instead, you touch the frame and whisper, new sky. You read your barometer, a small flutter in your throat, a thought that wants to speak in absolutes, an urge to rush. You breathe 446. You take your seat inside yourself. You choose a perspective, balcony for 1 sentence, lighthouse for 1 question. You take the smallest wise action. Maybe it's an email with 1 line. Maybe it's silence for 90 seconds. Maybe it's a clean no. Then you write the next micro start. You close the loop in your calendar at night, and you put 1 identity receipt in your pocket. You did not win a war. You kept the climate. That's the work. That's the art. If a part of you is still waiting for permission, here it is. Not from me, from the version of you who has been listening between these lines and practicing inside sentences while the world wasn't watching. You're not new to storms, you're new to steering them this smoothly. You will stumble, good. Every stumble is a place to run a loop, a point to mark on the trigger map, a dot of green in the ledger of your life. You will overreact, fine. The gentle mirror will be there to hold the truth without breaking you. You will say yes too fast. The 5-breath buffer will tap your shoulder tomorrow. You will forget the greenhouse and scroll. Then you'll remember. Return is part of mastery. One more sensory beat. Feel the tiny cool ring at your nostrils. Feel the slow warmth leaving on the exhale. Notice the weight of your head balanced on the atlas, the first vertebra, like a bowl held on a smooth stone. This is where the sky in you meets bone. The sky is bigger. Before we finish, build your vow, not a dramatic oath. A single sentence you can say with your name in it that you're willing to live by for the next 90 days. Your name, choose the sky loop before I choose the spiral. Or your name, protect 1 square of time each day where my horizon lives. Or your name, speak 1 clean sentence when weather rises. Say it softly now, again if you like. Vows change you because your nervous system believes what your mouth repeats when your body is calm. We'll practice once more the way a musician plays scales before stepping on stage. Bring to mind tomorrow morning, see the light where you will be. Hear a faint sound in that room that hasn't happened yet, the kettle, the street, your own steps. Sky loop lap 1, read your weather on waking, regulate with 1446, reframe with a street, balcony, lighthouse arc that fits the first challenge you expect. Respond with the smallest wise action. Climate calendar, morning forecast, a value and an act. Midday course correct, 1 breath, 1 sentence, 1 action. Nightly archive, 3 lines and the identity sentence. Sunday sky, a heading, seals at thresholds, observers seat nearby. Legacy compass in hand, you won't do it perfectly, you'll do it, and doing it changes forecasts. Now the line that has threaded the entire book into something wearable, a line you'll carry like a stone that warms in your palm when you need it. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Add the rest of the truth you've earned. You are the sky, not the storm, the pilot, not the turbulence, the gardener, not the wind, the author of the weather report you choose to believe. Breathe, feel your feet, touch the nearest surface. Say the line once more in your voice because your voice is the climate now. You are the sky, the weather moves through you. When it passes, you remain and you choose.